Chapter 841, Destruction. Chief Elder did not want to keep waiting. Cloud C's strength astounded him. While their reckless burning would lead to their deaths, but they were a great threat to him before their deaths. Their combined strength was unable to dismiss. There were some names among these people that Chief Elder had never heard of before. In truth, before today, he even felt slightly dismissive towards Sua Mo and Wei Sheng. But now, all of that underestimation had faded. Every one person in front of him was an opponent worthy of respect. To die for their beliefs, they died in their appointed place. Chief Elder lamented as his presence rose. The black clouds gathered again, thunder roaring as the ground suddenly split open. The great fissures appeared, each was like a terrifying wound that split the earth, growing larger and larger. The earth moved, the mountains shook, the sky changed color. All of the central plains was in his grasp. Every stalk of grass, every tree, mountain rock, they were all weapons in his hands. The long hair of the Chief Elder danced in the wind, countless bolts of lightning swimming around his body. His emaciated body was that of a god. A suffocatingly powerful presence was like a surging tide that battered at everything. The world trembled. Everything will end. Chief Elder murmured lightly as though he was sighing. He had decided to completely destroy this Jie. After today, there would be no more central plains. The cracks on the ground grew bigger, the red lava erupted like the blood of the earth. Boom, boom, boom. Thick lightning flashed across the sky and then shot down to the ground. When they landed among the boiling lava, they lit up a sea of fire. The scene was like the apocalypse. All the people in the central plains were in a panic. Terror quickly spread through the crowds, hopelessness appearing on their faces. The sky was dyed by the glow of lava. The unstoppable lightning destroyed all life. All of the transportation formations had become ineffective. There was a great power that cut off the entire Jie from the outside world. Chief Elder looked expressionlessly at everything happening. He had ignited the core of the Jie. In 10 hours, Central Plains would be completely destroyed, and all of the people in this Jie would be destroyed as well. Time to go. As he stepped into God level, he was able to survive in the endless void. He used Shin glyphs to seal the central plane and ignite the center of the Central Plains. The enemy had to reach the God level in order to break through. Otherwise, they would definitely be unable to escape this Jie. There was only one fate, to die with the Central Plains. He was not the one to create this move. In the ancient era, sealing a Jie that had enemies was something frequently used against enemies that did not have a God-level expert. This move also had something else great about it. Even if the other could break through the restraints, they would be consumed by the endless void. Those not in God level could not survive in the endless void. Even if these people burned themselves, they could not reach God level. Chief Elder was skilled in formations. He had left an imprint in Tianhuan. If he could flee into the endless void, he could quickly return to Tianhuan by homing in on the imprint. He did not search for the disciples that came with him. He was completely disappointed with those disciples. If they could be like the youths of Cloud C, he would have some hope. As long as he was alive, 5,000 years was enough for him to rebuild Tianhuan's soul. 10,000 years ago, that world that had been erased by the strongest would rise again from his hands. He didn't know what people in the future would write about him. However, so what? As long as he was present, Tianhuan would grow stronger. History was forever written by the victors. History was in his hands. Old man, you think you can flee? A voice that was gritted through teeth interrupted his thoughts. Chief Elder raised his head and what entered his eyes was a pair of eyes on fire. In the two balls of fire, what he saw was resistance and rebelliousness. Chief Elder frowned slightly. Zhuo Mo's gaze was unusually penetrating. Zhuo Mo bore the bone-aching pain. The essence of the sun crystal seed rampaged through his body. The essence of the sun that was overwhelmingly abundant was the power of the sun. Even if it was just a sun crystal seed, the power contained in it was not something that Zhuo Mo could endure. Even no one in the Sun tribe dared to use it like this. The god-level warrior of the Sun tribe searched for an Sun's embryo in the void, and sealed it into a Sun crystal seed. The Sun crystal seed was thought of as the relic of the Sun tribe and passed down through generations. Dozens of successors drew power from it. No one had never dared to break the Sun crystal seed. Zhuemo felt as though he was a ball of fire. Every inch of skin was burning. Fortunately, the great pain made him focus. It made him able to focus more on Chief Elder. The golden flames that erupted out of his body and twisted the Chief Elder in his view to become twisted. However, in his unprecedented focus, he could clearly lock onto the other. Want to leave? Zhuemo bared his teeth, whether in pain or disdain. His figure disappeared into the air. A cold light flashed through Chief Elder's eyes. A Shin glyph appeared without warning on his side. Boom! A blurry ball of flame viciously hit the Shin glyph. The Shin glyph crumbled with an explosion. Chief Elder's eye twitched. Then a ball of golden flame hit his waist. Chief Elder's figure disappeared in ripples. Zhuemo's fist hit empty air. Chief Elder's figure appeared in the sky above and behind Zhuemo. He pointed at Zhuemo. Boom boom boom. Lightning flashed through the clouds and struck towards Zhuemo. Dozens of bolts of lightning gathered together and formed a thick and terrifying bolt of lightning that accurately hit Zhuemo. The golden flames around Zhuemo sprayed out. Zhuemo did not seem to feel it, and leapt forward again. At this time, Zhuemo was completely in a berserk fury. His consciousness was burned blurry by the sun essence. He seemed to be struggling and floating in an endless sea of fire. There was only one thought in his dazed mind. Kill the old man. Kill the damned old man. Zhuemo's eyes burned, the golden flames spitting. He suddenly turned around, his face enveloped in flames without any emotion. His right hand swung a great golden axe, his body bowing as he threw. Within the flames, a Sun Shin axe suddenly shot out. Chief Elder felt a thread of fear. His eyes narrowed. He didn't seem to move. A Shin glyph appeared in front of him, and perfectly blocked the Shin axe. Whoosh! The Sun Shin axe suddenly turned into many Shin axes in the air. They covered the sky and the sun, tens of thousands of them. Each Sun Shin axe burned with golden flames, trailing long tails of golden fight like a spectacular meteor shower. This move was astounding in its presence, yet Chief Elder did not feel any fear. With a cold snort, the Shin glyph in front of him furiously spread in all directions. In a blink, the Shin glyph turned into an enormous net over 50 li long. The Sun Shin axes landed like rain on the Shin glyphs. The Shin glyphs trembled, the tens of thousands of blossoms of flame hanging on it burning intensely. Zhuemo saw his attack stopped and howled. An orange Sun Shin axe appeared in his hand and was thrown hard. Whoosh! The orange Sun Shin axe was unusually detailed, covered in packed sun glyphs. A thread of golden fire hissed on the blade of the axe. Such a detailed and well-formed Sun Shin axe was definitely the strongest axe Zhuemo had ever had created. It was like burning piece of metal and immediately penetrated the Shin glyph net. Chief Elder's face changed slightly. He reached towards the Sun Shin axe flying towards him. A Shin glyph took form immediately. Then, the Shin glyph split in the middle to form a black crack that quickly grew larger. It was like a black mouth that swallowed the Sun Shin axe. The endless void. Compared to the void skyly fire that had been summoned of the endless void before, Chief Elder's moves were multiple times stronger. He was masterfully using the endless void. Chief Elder felt slightly relieved. The power inside Zhuemo was strong, but he clearly did not know how to use it. He could not truly express the power. Yet at this time, a vicious and sharp sword hum suddenly rose from behind the Chief Elder. Chief Elder's expression became grave. Blood quickly permeated into Wei Xing's body like water sucked into sand. Wei Xing's eyes were closed, his determined face an unusual white. Even unconscious, his body was ruler straight. There was an ancient character carved out of blood on each of his hands. Left hand, God, right hand, killing, it was the words, God killing. Unusually, there wasn't any hint of blood on the sword in his hand. It was clean as though it had just been wiped down. There wasn't any tang of blood. The unconscious body of Wei Xing suddenly shuddered. He slowly opened his eyes. The eyes which had been like bloody glass now were without any blood. They were clear and transparent, except that the pupils had turned into the shape of the sword. His eyes were two swords. He floated in the air, the lava below his feet that had been shooting into the air seemed to be pushed down by an invisible hand. The sword in his hand hummed lightly. A vicious and bloodthirsty hum of the sword sounded through the entire jie. The primitive and ancient presence contained a thick bloody tang that rushed into the surroundings like a flood. In the air, Wei Xing's cold gaze landed on Chief Elder, the sword in his hand flashing with an eerie light. A cruel and cold smile floated at the corner of Wei Xing's mouth. The scent of a god. The tone was filled with viciousness as though it was a completely different person. Before the sound ended, his body disappeared from the air. In the next moment, he appeared in space. The sky behind him seemed to be dyed red by blood. The sword shook, and sword essence fell down like a blood-colored waterfall. Sword essence that had to be counted in the thousands completely shrouded Chief Elder. Chief Elder felt his body tighten. His entire body was surrounded by a slight piercing pain. He felt a shudder. Thousands of tiny sword essence didn't run astray at all. All of the sword essences were targeted at him. Such a powerful strike. The right hand of Lin Qian, who was hiding in the shadows, trembled around its grip on his sword as a cold light flashed through his eyes. Chapter 842, Great Trouble. Wei Xing's strike was the blood-colored sword essence flowing like a great river, like a waterfall 10,000 zhang tall as it locked onto Chief Elder. The thick tang of blood caused Chief Elder to unconsciously frown. His gaze locked onto the spotless sword in Wei Xing's hand, his expression grave. That was not ordinary. It probably was just a step behind Kunlun's immemorial. Chief Elder was slightly shocked. It was already shocking that Kunlun had found the immemorial Shen sword, but he knew the price Kunlun had paid for Lin Qian's immemorial Shen sword. The essence of Wei Xing's sword was not as pure as the immemorial Shen sword, but its murderousness was so great he didn't know how much blood it had drank to form. He hadn't through such a vicious weapon existed in the world. The vicious presence around Wei Xing and the slightly evil expression were an extreme contrast from Wei Xing's previous state. The sword soul had taken possession. Wei Xing was a person of such strong resolve. He definitely would not have been overcome, so it was likely he had let the sword soul into his body. In a blink, Chief Elder understood and his wariness increased. He admired Wei Xing. In terms of talent, among the young people Chief Elder had seen, Wei Xing most likely wouldn't even enter the top 50. However, Wei Xing had steel-like resolve, a spirit that did not give up, that was what created his accomplishments. His resolve had spread through his body. A body like that could tolerate greater power. In a flash, countless thoughts flashed through Chief Elder's mind. He did not feel any fear. No matter if it was Zhuo Mo or Wei Xing, they did not have enough of a foundation accumulated. Forcibly raising their cultivation like this seemed powerful, but there was still not enough to compete with a true god level. Do not underestimate this hair-thin line. It was the difference of the sky to the earth. Their understanding of the world was not on the same level at all. The effect of pure power without comprehension was not as great as they imagined. They underestimated the god level. Numerous brown Shen glyphs rose out of the ground under Chief Elder's feet and grew upwards like vines. A Shen glyph wall suddenly rose from under his feet. The waterfall of sword essence hit the Shen glyph wall. Boom! A deafening sound. Sword essence scattered. That thin Shen glyph wall was unmoved. No matter how the sword essence is charged, it did not move at all. It was like the strongest rock along the ocean. No matter how strong or fierce the wave, they would turn into beads of water when they hit it and would not damage it at all. Crack, crack, crack. A spider web of cracks rapidly appeared on the ground under the Shen glyph. The cracks spread at a rapid rate. Boom boom boom. The sword essences continued the ferocious attack, and the Shin glyph wall finally shook. Chief Elder's expression changed slightly, light flashing through his eyes as his body suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Boom! The Shin glyph wall finally could not withstand the attack and shattered. The surging sword essence hit the ground hard. The blood sword river entered the ground without any effort like a knife cutting tofu. Boom boom boom, great vibrations came from deep within the earth. An enormous bottomless pit over 10 li in diameter appeared on the ground. Chief Elder narrowed his eyes, his heart shuddering. What sword was that? How could it possess such pure power? The reason the immemorial Shin sword was powerful was because its sword essence was pure. When it dominated the world, all bowed before it. But this sword, the sword essence, could not be considered top tier, but such a savage and fiercely unreasonable power was really shocking. Unless, a name from the legends appeared in his mind. Chief Elder stared at the sword in Wei Xing's hands, his eyes lighting up. Yet at this time, great murderousness shrouded him. His body felt cold and reflexively a Shin glyph appeared behind his back. Bam! The Shin glyph cracked like glass. Chief Elder was once again startled. He made another Shin glyph and retreated. Hiss! The Shin glyph was cut easily like it was paper. A purple energy flashed right next to his body, the thick murderousness causing goosebumps to rise on his skin. Before he could attack in return, a purple energy suddenly shot towards his face. Chief Elder pointed with a serious expression. A Shin glyph appeared out of the air. The purple energy did not enter the Shin glyph nor cut it. The Shin glyph seemed to be a gentle flower that closed and wrapped around the purple shadow. Chief Elder chanted inside his mind, and the Shin glyph started to explode in segments. A gray armored figure wrapped in chains appeared in front of him. His pupils suddenly contracted. Undying Shin punishment. Zhong Ru changed with a bowed head, his hair turning white at a visible rate. His body was so thin that it would fall if the wind blew. Only his eyes became even clearer and brighter. Numerous sutra characters the size of a finger spun around him. The lotus flower mark on his forehead lit up and slowly flew out of his forehead. It landed onto the ground and materialized into a lotus flower bigger than a prayer mat. The lotus flower seemed alive, pink and tender. Zhong Ru raised a foot, and the lotus flower moved under his foot. He stepped onto the lotus flower cross-legged. A wisp of fire suddenly appeared out of every sutra character. It was the fire of wish power. Zhong Ru had a smile on his face and no pain at all. What burned was the fire of wish power, his true heart. Buddha abandonment death wish. Zhong Ru's harmonious gaze was calm and determined. Even now, when he was close to being known as the strongest dhyana shio in the world, his heart was just as it was in the beginning and had never changed at all. With the body of Vajra, protect Darren. Every sutra character burned wish power. Astounding waves of power entered his body. The wish power lotus under his body burned like fire at his body. His expression was calm and without any pain. His calm dhyana heart was like a burning ball of fire. When all of the sutra characters were burned away. When the wish power lotus under him had burned into ash. The power inside Zhong Ru's body reached a peak. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth. It wasn't the mannerism of that great dhyana shio, but that sincere and honest smile of that youth from Little Mountain Jia that only knew a single fist scripture. Darren, let us fight together. He took a deep breath, hiss, the air was pulled. A long inhale sounded like the breathing of a monster waking up. A silent vibration gathered at his right fist. He gave a thunderous shout. Zhong Ru punched into the sky. Chief Elder, who had been staring at a Gue, felt a feeling of danger. His mind moved and he was about to escape when he suddenly found that the air around him was like an thick bog. It had a strange stickiness. This was... His eyebrows jumped. His hands moved and a Shin glyph appeared. Pop pop pop, a string of explosions sounded in the space around him. Then, his body felt lighter. Then the Shen glyph under his feet flashed and his body disappeared from his spot and appeared in the sky nearby. Wish power. How was there such powerful wish power? Chief Elder was astounded. He suddenly turned his face, and stared at the figure on the ground who had their fist up in the air. Even in the past Xian Kong Temple, no one had such powerful wish power. Chief Elder's expression changed. Tianhuan and Xian Kong Temple had fought both secretly and in the openly for many years. Everyone knew each other very well. He had never seen such strong wish power even from the oldest generation. Chief Eider could see with a glance that Zhong Ru was burning his wish power. Wish power was a very special and dangerous power. Wish power that was hard for ordinary people to understand was not so mysterious in the eyes of people as powerful as Chief Elder. However, this did not mean he was willing to touch it. The wish, it was the base for forming wish power. What it needed was the strongest of wishes, a wish true to one's heart. The other rule of wish power was sacrifice. It referred to the power that was produced when one was willing to give up everything else to achieve this wish. There were two reasons why wish power was so powerful. One was the person's heart, the other was sacrifice. One with a true heart would not go astray. The sacrifice was even more extreme. The person would forget all of their other worries, their heart even clearer. The more they sacrificed, the stronger the wish power produced. Even God-level experts were wary of this kind of power. Because this was not the power of the world, this was the power of a person. Such strong with power, this person. Great trouble. Wish power was enough trouble to deal with. But this person actually burned wish power. Would anyone do this? Chief Elder suddenly had a strong impulse to swear. He suddenly found that his situation seemed to have become slightly bad. Zuo was the strongest in power, but it was clear that he was not in a good state, a confused state between clarity and befuddlement. Wei Shen was much more of a threat. If he really had the god-killing blood sword in his hand, then he would be in great trouble today. Something that had disappeared for tens of thousands of years like the undying Shen punishment actually appeared in front of him. Chief Elder almost didn't believe his eyes. Adding on Zhong Ru who was burning wish power, Chief Elder felt a headache just thinking about it. He suddenly remembered there were two other people. He couldn't help but turn his face. His face quickly darkened. Two crescent moons appeared in Tseng Lianer's eyes. There was none of the indolent temptation she usually wore, only a strong feeling of danger. Her two crescent moon earrings clinked. A strong pressure came with the appearance of her floor-length deep red dress. A silver crescent moon flowed with light behind her. When moon Shen power burned, it was not flames, but a moon-colored flow that appeared as cool as water. The icy moon flame flow caused every nerve in her to tremble. However, her expression was normal. Resonating with her, a ray of condensed moon essence shot down from the full moon in the sky and landed on Tseng Lianer. She could feel the wondrous connection between her and the full moon high above her. The moon essence of the full moon flowed into her body and that cold moon flame flow. The power grew rapidly inside of her. She was at her most powerful state. Suddenly, she felt something and looked towards the moon in the sky. The moon suddenly lit up, spraying out countless moon essences. Lines of moon essences fell down from the full moon. In a blink, innumerable threads of moon essence fell like silk and covered all of the central plains. Chapter 843, God Level. A wisp of fire suddenly jumped inside of Luo Li's body that was gradually turning ethereal. His fading body was like cotton soaked in oil and started to burn with a whoosh. The flames followed along the chain between the two and spread towards Luo Li. Luo Li suddenly turned her head and looked at Luo Li covered in flames. Her cool eyes became gentle and then became determined. Ever since she was created, she knew that she was his sword. The sword should be strong, sharp, only then could she protect him. She knew his thoughts and resolve just like she understood his emotions. Surviving together, never abandoning each other. She was his sword. She was here to help him fulfill his duties. The flames quickly spread to her along the chains. She was born for him from him, and her heart was unusually calm at being able to turn into dust in his flames. The flames burrowed into her body. Powerful Shen power formed in her body like a roiling volcano. Luo Li. Her lips parted slightly, her murmur filled with soft emotion. That even fainter figure in the flames seemed to hear her murmur and shook slightly. The fire became dimmer and dimmer, the chain was burnt into dust. The last wisp of flame entered her body, and she could feel that familiar presence inside her body. He had not left. Never to be parted. Wali's face became determined again. She was the sword, she had to complete his last wishes. His wishes were her wishes. His duty was her duty. Living and dying together, never apart. Another figure flew into the air. Chief Elder made a slight sound of surprise. It was a sword spirit. It was the first time he saw such a lifelike sword spirit. What shocked him the most was that the sword spirit did not seem any different compared with a living person. This was impossible. Even Kun Luan could not make a sword spirit become like a living person. Sword spirits were created from sword scriptures, no one could create other people, even God-level experts definitely could not. These people from Mo Cloud Sea, they were really a group of freaks. Chief Elder was not very surprised by Tsing Lianer's abilities. It had been known a long time ago that Tsing Lianer had the complete inheritance of the Moon Shen power. Many sects had secretly desired to capture Tsing Lianer and get the Moon Shen power from her. In the end, they had to give up on their desire due to the strength of Mo Cloud Sea. The Moon Shen Temple had not been as powerful as the Sun Shen Temple, but their line of succession had not been broken. In any era, they maintained their own inheritance. This alone was a proof of their power. Looking at the sky, Chief Elder's mind finally was affected. A sun, a full moon, a bloody sky, combined they formed an eerie picture. Even Chief Elder had never seen such a picture. This time, it really was troublesome. He felt slight regret. He should have left a bit earlier. Now, he was surrounded by 6 people. While none of them were God level, but each of them were just a step away from God level. Chief Elder would naturally not fear if it was just 1 or 2 of them, but 6 at once, and each of them with eerie and strange powers. Chief Elder immediately felt a great pressure. Also, Chief Elder glanced at a nondescript corner in the distance out of the corner of his eye. Kun Lun's people wanted to take advantage of the chaos. Chief Elder noticed Lin Qian and the people from Kun Luan hiding when he entered God level. The presence of Lin Qian's immemorial Shen sword was too strong. If he used this opportunity to kill Lin Qian and these people, then no one could stop Tian Huan from dominating. But Chief Elder was very wary of the sword in Lin Qian's hands. Normal people might not know about this sword, but how could Chief Elder not? The immemorial Shen sword combined with the soul of the previous Kun Luan sect leader allowed the power of this sword to reach a terrifying level. Even if a god level was touched by this sword, it would be dangerous. Therefore, Chief Elder's mind moved and he had thought of a wonderful idea. If he closed off and then detonated Central Plains Jia, Lin Qian could probably escape using the power of the immemorial sword. However, he would definitely pay a significant price, and the other people with him would die. Wounded, Lin Qian would have to go into seclusion for many years after returning to Kun Luan in order to recover. Those years would be enough for him to lead Tian Huan to conquer the lands. But before that, he had to leave this place alive. Chief Elder remained on alert for Lin Qian, who had been in hiding in wait all this time. Lin Qian with his immemorial Shen sword was like a poisonous snake. If he showed any weakness, this poisonous snake would bare its fangs and inject the venom into the body of the enemy. In Chief Elder's view, Lin Qian was undoubtedly the greatest threat. These people from Mo Cloud Sea would definitely die, meaning Lin Qian's goal could only be him. Consequently, even though he had been fighting the group of Mo Cloud Sea, Chief Elder's mind was on guard against Lin Qian attacks. However, these people from Mo Cloud Sea astounded Chief Elder. He suddenly found that leaving would not be as easy after being surrounded by these 6 people. If he could not leave in 10 hours, the collapsing Central Plains would bury him as well. Zhuemo and the other 5 people did not know the thoughts of Chief Elder. Their bloodlust had taken over. Fire coming all over his body, Zhuemo was like a furious lion that madly attacked. There seemed to be a vast and surging power inside his body like a sea of fire that made him a wild beast that did not know weariness. If Zhuemo's consciousness was clear, then the Chief Elder would probably have trouble just facing Zhuemo alone. Zhuemo was like a sun, there seemed to be endless light and heat inside his body. For some unknown reason, Zhuemo could resonate with the sun above. A full sun burned above their heads. Under the sunlight, Zhuemo became even more powerful. Wei Sheng, who had been taken over by the god-killing blood sword, swelled with murderousness that had hid for tens of thousands of years. Also, the sword was more experienced than Wei Sheng in battle. The blood of those god-level experts had contained their fighting instincts before death. He casually swung and every move was astoundingly powerful. The thick tang of blood contained terrifying power. Compared to Zhuemo, who was not mentally in control, Wei Sheng was a bigger threat. Chief Elder had just dodged a Sun Shin axe when 3 bloody floods formed by 3 sword essences howled towards him from 3 different directions like pythons. If he was hit by one of them, even with the Shin glyph protecting his body, it would not be a good experience. More importantly, he would lose the initiative. The Shin glyph flashed under his feet and Chief Elder disappeared from where he stood. He had just appeared 300 zhang away when the threads falling from the moon imperceptibly shook. Chief Elder seemed to detect it and hurriedly dodged again. Just as he disappeared, a curved blade cut through where he had just been. When Chief Elder's figure reappeared, a Gui's attack silently appeared behind his back. Chief Elder felt a thread of anger at being forced into such a sorry state. He snorted. Countless Shin glyphs appeared behind his back. With a whoosh, they swept towards a Gui. The undying Shin punishment was very troublesome, but it was just a little troublesome. Chief Elder was full of murderousness. He would show these people what a god-level expert was. The furiously growing Shin glyphs were like vines that immediately wrapped around a Gui. These dark green Shin glyphs were peerless in their strength. While the bone daggers in a Gui's hands could cut them off, they grew quickly. In a blink, a Gui was wrapped up by the Shin glyph that was like a furiously growing patch of grass. Wali's sword essence had reached Chief Elder's face. Chief Elder's expression changed slightly and he retreated. This sword energy that seemed to be covered in dust was made from dozens of layers of life and death energy. It was the first time Chief Elder had encountered such a strange sword essence. Between life and death, between intangibility and tangibility, layer after layer, there an unique sword essence like this in the world. Chief Elder pointed with his fingers. A Shin glyph suddenly appeared and split into 2 to reveal a thin opening that was black and bottomless. It was a crack into the endless void. Wali's sword essence disappeared into the endless void. Chief Elder relaxed slightly. Even if it was between life and death, between intangibility and tangibility, there would be only one fate for it after being sucked into the endless void. The feeling of stickiness once again appeared which made Chief Elder's body still. Wei Sheng's sword essence just barely brushed past him and he had a cold sweat from the shock. Chief Elder's eyes flashed with cold light. The ground underneath Zhong Ru's feet split apart without any warning or sound. Boom, large waves of burning red-hot lava erupted from the crack and the lava swallowed Zhong Ru. The pillar of lava was more than 100 zhang tall like an enormous dragon. The dragon fire then landed heavily and smashed into the lava below. The lava seemed to be alive. It grabbed Zhong Ru and pulled him down deeper. The crack on the ground fused back together. The sun, moon, and bloody sky above made Chief Elder extremely uncomfortable. He snorted coldly. He did not seem to move, but the rivers, lakes, and oceans of the central plain started to boil. Steam rose up, and turned into mist that gathered in the sky. Black clouds covered the sky once again. The moonlight threads were cut off, the sun's fire burned at the cloud layer, but the cloud layer became thicker and thick until it completely separated the sun and moon from the land below. The world became dark again. The lightning snakes danced in the black clouds even more intensely than before. Chief Elder's gaze moved to Wei Sheng and he felt a wave of murderousness. So what if it was the god-killing blood sword? It was from tens of thousands of years ago. Did you still think it still is that era? Naive. Facing the blood sword essence, he suddenly reached out a hand. Hiss crack crack. In that moment, thousands of bolts of lightning came from the cloud layer and landed on Chief Elder's palm. There seemed to be a layer of silver liquid flowing on Chief Elder's palm that was so bright no one could look directly at it. Chief Elder's hand moved slightly. The silver fluid started to retreat from his arm towards his wrist and then from his sword to his finger. Thousands of bolts of lightning formed a round and scorchingly bright silver ball that appeared in front of Chief Elder's finger. Chief Elder flicked, and the silver ball which gave off a terrifying presence flew towards the incoming bloody sword essence. Chapter 844, Lin Qian Pu. The silver ball immediately penetrated the sword essence. The seemingly powerful sword essence flow was as fragile as paper in front of this silver ball. The bloody flow collapsed. The silver ball drew out a silver streak in the air as it flew towards Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng's pale and eerie face showed a hint of fear. But then a cold and eerie smile appeared on his lips. The power of the god-killing blood sword came from the power in the blood of the ancient warriors, but the god-killing blood sword had not completely taken over Wei Sheng's mind. Because only Wei Sheng could truly express his understanding of sword essence. At this time, the god-killing blood sword returned control to Wei Sheng. Chief Elder found the difference. The eerie and vicious presence on Wei Sheng's face suddenly disappeared, and was replaced by the determined and honest presence unique to Wei Sheng. Chief Elder immediately realized what had happened. Having gained control again, Wei Sheng did not seem to feel the piercing pain in his body. His eyes focused slightly, his wrist shook, and the blood sword in his hand suddenly rose slightly. He executed the simple stab that he had practiced millions of times, stab forward. Just like last time, the blood-colored sword essence exploded out. The ultimate power contained in the blood of those ancient warriors turned into tiny sword essences counted in the hundreds of thousands as they erupted from the sword. Unexpectedly, these millions of sword essences were filled with the smell of blood did not spread out but were gathering towards the tip of the sword. Looking from afar, it seemed that the blood-colored light that appeared on the sword was contracting and collapsing suddenly towards the sword tip. A rice-sized dot of light suddenly burned at the tip of the sword. Wei Sheng's eyes were as bright as stars as his wrist flicked lightly. That light made from millions of sword essences flew towards the silver ball and jumped off the tip of the sword. The sword essence dot of light did not move fast, and its flight path was slightly unstable. However, the silver ball seemed to be attracted to it and flew straight towards the sword essence dot. The rice-sized sword essence dot collided with the silver ball. Snap! The silver ball broke apart, a thread of lightning flashing and disappearing in the air without any of the terrifying presence it had before. The sword essence dot that had shattered the silver ball continued to fly towards Chief Elder. Chief Elder was slightly shocked. He looked again at Wei Sheng. He hadn't expected that the god-killing blood sword was even stronger in Wei Sheng's hands than in the hands of the god-killing blood sword. It was a pity such an outstanding youth was not from Tianhuan. Chief Elder felt slight pity. The more he fought with these people, the more he felt just how outstanding they were. Wei Sheng was powerful, but this was not enough to defeat him. Chief Elder flicked a finger and a crack to the endless voice appeared in front of the dot of light. Even the strongest sword essence was meaningless against the vast endless void. Just as the dot of light was about to be swallowed by the crack into the endless void, the blood swords in Wei Sheng's eyes suddenly lit up. The sword in his hand trembled and he shouted, "Explode!" The dot of light suddenly gave off blinding rays of light. The sword essence that had been compressed to its limits exploded in the crack to the endless void in a spectacular show. Boom! All of the central plains suddenly shook violently. Chief Elder's expression changed drastically for the first time. With a grunt, he disappeared from his position. He was wounded. There was a certain connection between his mind and the Shen glyphs he used. The endless void crack at the center of the Shin glyph had exploded, and the great blow had affected his body. His mind was injured. This person was crazy. Attacking a crack to the endless void, this person dared to attack a crack to the endless void. No one would have dared to do this. This was not any different than committing suicide. The endless void crack was extremely unstable to start with. It was very likely to pull all of the central planes in the endless void after being attacked like this. Everyone would die. Suddenly, Chief Elder realized, these people were going to die anyways. Damn it! Chief Elder's expression changed again. He had been mistaken. How could he have forgotten this? If these people were trapped here, if they attacked the cracks to the endless void, then he wouldn't be able to escape. A dark black crack suddenly floated in the air. A crack to the endless void. Lin Qian looked in shock at the great battle occurring in the distance with waves in his heart. The strength of God level was deeply imprinted into his mind. This battle far surpassed his understanding, no matter if it was Chief Elder that controlled all things in the world, or Wei Sheng and the others. All of the powers they showed were from the legends of the ancient warriors. Originally, he had wanted to watch and see if he could take advantage of the situation. However, when the crack to the endless void was attacked, he realized there wasn't much time left. He had been gripping the immemorial Shin sword all this time. Everything in the surroundings were clearly reflected in his mind. He could clearly feel that after Wei Sheng attacked the crack to the endless void, all of the central planes were affected. Before, it had been a few hours to the collapse. Now that time was drastically shorted. With his strength, he could not accurately calculate when this Jia would collapse. The feeling of increasing danger told him that there wasn't much time left. Looking at everyone around him, Lin Qian felt terrible and didn't know how to speak. There hadn't been any problems with their plan. Ever since they had received the news about Mo Cloud Si and Tian Huan, Kunlun had done a great deal of work, even sending Mu Xian to fight Mu Shi, creating a great ruckus so that Tian Huan and Mo Cloud Si would not worry as they fought each other. Lin Qian had personally led this team and had a few different backup plans, including one where they attacked Zhongde, Mo Cloud Si, or the chief elder of Tian Huan. All of them could be targets depending on how the situation developed. Possessing the immemorial sword, Lin Qian had the ability to kill in a single blow. But how could he have imagined that the chief elder of Tian Huan would step into God level? When the other decided to close off and destroy this Jia, Lin Qian knew that chief elder had definitely noticed them. This time, the children of Kunlun that came with him would not be able to escape. Even he needed to rely on the power of the immemorial sword to break through the void and return to Kunlun. He did not have the ability to take others with him. Eldest Shixiang, quick go, a Kunlun disciple urged in a trembling voice. This battle was a great blow to them. They had detected the change to some degree. How could the ones that became children of Kunlun be stupid? Their guesses were extremely close to the truth. Yes, eldest Shixiang. Go quickly. Compared to the Kunlun disciples, this slightly older disciple urged as well. If eldest Shixiang can return, then Kunlun has won. These words immediately lit up their emotions. Their pale faces flashed with a strange excitement. Ha! Tian Huan will not have chief elder, Mo Cloud C's experts will all be dead, only Kunlun will be left. Ha! Such a great bargain. Eldest Shixiang, you have to conquer the world. Lin Qian's eyes filled with tears. He bit his lips, and said slowly, Kunlun will not forget any of you. Time became even tighter, the feeling of danger increasing. Lin Qian did not hesitate any longer. He wiped the tears and held the immemorial Shin sword across his body. Lin Qian's expression was devout as he chanted, protect our Kunlun. The immemorial Shin sword suddenly gave off astounding light that wrapped around Lin Qian. Inside the light, a part of Lin Qian's Shin power suddenly started to burn. Enormous pain spread through his body. Lin Qian's body did not move a hair. So this was burning Shin power. He hadn't thought that he would need to burn Shin power to escape this place. Lin Qian looked deeply at Tian Huan's chief elder in the sky. Accumulating enough Shin power to burn. That was the crux of becoming a god. Lin Qian noted this. This was the greatest gain this time. He would definitely become god level. Lin Qian gripped the sword hilt tightly. The burning Shin power was sucked dry by the immemorial Shin sword in his hand. The light wrapped around him suddenly exploded. A vast sword essence broke through the sky. Lin Qian's body disappeared from his spot. A Kunlun child stood up and shouted, "We're going to die anyways. Brothers! Let's fight to the death. Mo Cloud sees people are going to die with us, we cannot let that old man from Tianhuan run away. All in. Do it." All of the Kunlun children had a look of fanaticism on their faces. They seemed to see the scene of Kunlun conquering the world. They started to furiously burn Shin power. No. He had to leave as fast as possible. Chief Elder knew if this continued, he could not leave. Lin Qian's departure cleared his mind. Escaping this place was the most important thing. Otherwise, even if Lin Qian was wounded but could return alive, they won. Lin Qian only needed to spend a few years to recover from his wounds and then Tianhuan would be finished. Without him, Tianhuan could not stop Lin Qian. Chief Elder ignored those children of Kunlun and smirked inside. Those children of Kunlun were too weak. They didn't know that they didn't even qualify to burn their Shin power. Idiots. As expected. The first Kunlun disciple that burned their Shin power, turned to ash before they could make any sound. The rest of the disciples were unable to stop. Flames consumed all of them. Why had Chief Elder never thought that burning was the crux to entering god level? Because in the records that had remained from the ancient era, burning was the move used to die with your opponent. Those that burned Shin power would die. This was easy to understand. But only after entering god level did Chief Elder truly understand. There were 3 outcomes to burning Shin power. Those with weak Shin power would be turned to ash on the spot. If their Shin power reached a certain level, burning would increase their power temporarily but then they would die in the end. And only when their Shin power reached a certain level would burning Shin power allow them to break through. They could use the power of the breakthrough to stabilize and become god level. There were only a rare few that had become god level. The important points had disappeared into history. Dodging Zhuo Mo, Wei Sheng, and Wali's attacks, Chief Elder searched for a chance to escape. His eyes glanced at the endless void crack. Zhuo Mo's mind was a blur. He was relying on his instincts for the great majority of his attacks. But as he attacked without any regard for the consequences, a small part of the power inside his body was used up and he finally recovered a thread of clarity. The presence of the immemorial Shin sword just now caused him to shudder and his mind immediately became much clearer. Lin Qian. This name caused his eyes to turn red. Clear-minded, Zhuo Mo reacted quickly and realized Lin Qian's intentions. He hadn't thought that this was the mantis hunting the cicada, while the oriole was waiting behind. The one that benefited in the end was Lin Qian. But at this time, he quickly moved his gaze back to the battle. Lin Qian had already escaped. If Chief Elder escaped as well, Mo Cloud Sea would be finished. This thought caused Zhuo Mo to glare at Chief Elder. No. No matter what, Chief Elder could not be allowed to leave this place alive. Since they would die anyways, they had to fight for a chance for Mo Cloud Sea. Having recovered clarity of mind, Zhuo Mo's danger level immediately rose. Eldest Shixiang, stop him, do not let him escape through the crack. Zhuo Mo exposed Chief Elder's intentions and he moved forward before he finished speaking. The golden flames rushed to gather at his right fist. Zhuo Mo's face was full of viciousness and savagery. Come, taste yes new move. Chapter 845, Surging Power of Everyone Here, the one that was the greatest threat to Chief Elder was Wei Sheng and not the god-killing blood sword. The difference in cultivation meant that the great power of the god-killing blood sword could not be fully expressed. Even then only Wei Sheng could transform the great and savage power of the god-killing blood sword into powerful killing moves. The god-killing blood sword also recognized this. While it was unwilling, the circumstances of the battle meant that it had to relinquish control to Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng's skill in the sword was completely brought out. Having just comprehended how to compress sword essence, he repeatedly released these extremely compressed sword essences. Chief Elder was very wary of them. Unprecedented power flooded into Wei Sheng's body from the god-killing blood sword and rampaged through his body. Buoyed by this surging power, he stood at an unprecedented level. His vision immediately broadened. Countless ideas of the sword path erupted out of his mind. The sword essence in his hand constantly changed, and the sword essence became even harder to predict. An explosion due to his accumulated knowledge. His sword cultivation route had never been smooth. He had experienced numerous hardships, countless obstacles, and always persisted. No one is like him. Even with such strength, he still persisted daily in the basic sword training. After continuing for so many years, his fundamentals were astoundingly rooted, and he had accumulated great knowledge and skill. This was truly an explosion. Wei Sheng's understanding of void sword essence broke through a bottleneck and reached an unprecedented height. The pressure on Chief Elder suddenly increased. The void presence in Wei Sheng's sword essence became fainter and fainter, the sword energy slimmer, and was now as thin as a strand of hair. Chief Elder didn't dare to let these hair-thin sword energies near him. Even he would be cut apart by these sword energies if they touched him. Each slender sword energy was a tiny crack of the endless void. Damn it! Chief Elder felt even more frantic. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a wisp of fire, and his heart jumped. For Zuo, the Sun Shin methodology had always been very cryptic. It was an inheritance from an ancient time, after all. The speech and writing from that time had been completely different from now. Many times, Zuo needed to focus to study and understand. His cultivation path could not be said to be difficult, but Zuo always felt that there was a barrier, and he could not easily proceed. Until now. There was peerless power surging in his body. All of the power in the Sun Crystal Seed was unleashed inside his body. Even in the history of the Sun Tribe, no one had dared to do a similar thing. There had never been such great power. All the places that had been difficult in the past disappeared completely now. The entire Shin methodology flowed through his mind and matched him unusually well, as though it had been activated now after hiding in his body all this time. The Sun Shin methodology was not as complex as Zuo originally imagined. When he understood and looked back, he found that the Sun Shin methodology was actually very simple. The ancient warriors emphasized presence as the most important during battle. They were the ultimate power for their tribe. When tribes fought, they were usually fighting at the front lines, just like the MO of the present. This was why they admired simplicity the most. Things that were too complex might be beautiful and exquisite, but they definitely were of little help for presence. The Sun Shin methodology was modeled after the sun, and the Sun Crystal Seed was a sun. Its power was of the same source as the Sun Shin power, and the laws involved were the same. While he could not control everything in the world like Chief Elder, but there was no obstacle any longer to understand many things that had been hard to understand. It could be said that only now did he completely absorb the entire Sun Shin methodology, how to channel Shin power, and much more. Those furious raging power became Zuo's best teachers and taught him how to produce and channel the power of the sun. The great problems that countless Sun Tribe warriors had spent their minds and energy on studying were clearly being displayed inside Zuo's body. Zuo even found several places where the Sun Shin methodology was wrong. There never been anyone like him who was able to observe how the burning flows inside the sun moved in such detail. The burning flows inside the Sun Crystal Seed had manifested after being accumulated through millions of years. It was much more refined compared to Zuo's Sun Shin power. It was a pity, he didn't have much time left. If he could survive, maybe he could push the Sun Shin methodology to a higher level. At such a time, he was able to have such absurd thoughts in his mind. Zuo grinned in self-mockery. In his field of view, Chief Elder's unpredictable figure grew closer. Zuomo's pupils were like two balls of burning flame. Since this was the case, then let the Sun Shin methodology shine its brightest light in his hands. Flames continued to flow and gather at his right fist. At this time, the Mo matrix seal on his right hand was destroyed by the burning flows of the Sun crystal seed. The skin of his right fist was almost transparent. The deep red burning flows moved underneath slowly like blood. As the flames continued to gather, the burning sun flows in his right fist started to become more active. Chief Elder's figure continued to grow closer. The fire burning in Zuomo's chest became even stronger. As though they felt his fighting spirit, the burning flows inside his body circulated faster. The strong burning brought along great pain, and caused Zuomo's face to twist. At this time, he saw Chief Elder suddenly jump and the Shin glyph under his feet lit up at the same time. You want to run? Zuomo's face was unspeakably vicious. The flames on his right fist were compressed to the limit, burning a blinding white. The burning flows in his right fist became more active than they ever had been. His right fist trembled uncontrollably as a feeling of numbness spread. A blurry figure flashed nearby. Idiot! Zuo, who was almost pushed to the point of crumbling by the burning flows, had a peerlessly savage expression on his twisted face. Kill! A silent howl exploded in his mind. Using all of his power, he threw his right fist in the direction of Chief Elder. Boom! The surging Sun Shin flames erupted from Zuomo's right fist without any warning. The flames were so strong they exploded like a volcano. The area they covered was unexpectedly large. Chief Elder, who had not stabilized himself, was consumed by the Sun Shin fire. When an enormous pillar of Shin fire 5 li in diameter appeared in the sky, the entire sky was illuminated. The thick clouds in the sky boiled and a large portion disappeared. Within the pillar of fire, countless three-legged golden crows that manifested from Shin power flapped their wings. Golden arcs of flame formed and extinguished in the pillar of fire. Everyone was stunned by the astounding scene. In front of the enormous pillar of flame, Zuo seemed so minuscule. Ha, ha! Zuomo's panting was interspersed with broken laughter as he floated in the air. His right fist was burnt black, his right arm having completely lost feeling. His terrifying pillar of fire was not formed from his Shin power but by igniting the burning sun flows inside his fist. He had just used an extremely tiny amount of the burning sun flows, but he had paid a great price. His Shin power would not be able to injure the Chief Elder, but the burning sun flows could. He didn't have much Shin power, but he had a great amount of burning sun flows in his body. There was a great difference in their cultivation, but so what? Power could not fill the gap in cultivation, but he had enough power to break the gap. Come, old man. Zuomo's eyes were red. He could not feel if it was his spirit that was burning or if his body was actually burning. That was not important now. Chief Elder's figure appeared in view. He was extremely disheveled, all of his hair burned away. He hadn't expected that Zuomo's punch had such great range. When he had been consumed by the pillar of fire, he used Shin glyphs to protect himself. Yet the pillar of fire formed by igniting the burning sun flows was too great. What depressed him even more was that there had been a bunch of three-legged golden crows inside the pillar of fire formed from Zuomo's Shin power. These three-legged golden crows furiously charged at him so that he could not use any methods except Shin glyphs to resist the Sun Shin fire. That was Sun Shin fire. The life of a sun could be counted in the billions of years. Even an infant sun had lived through millions of years. The power of the Sun Shin fire it created could be imagined. The surging Sun Shin fire had caught the Chief Elder off guard and he had been injured. What had injured the Chief Elder was not the Sun Shin fire's power but its terrifying volume. Chief Elder seemed to be hit by a raging river. He was disheveled because he had been caught off guard. If he was prepared, he would definitely be able to stop the same move. In his eyes, Zuo could not express its true power. The move appeared astounding, but its true power was not as great as imagined. However, being pushed to such a step by a person not in God level. Chief Elder's gaze when he looked at Zhuo suddenly became dark and murderous. He glanced at the endless void crack that had been attacked by Wei Sheng but hadn't disappeared. This crack of the endless void that he could pass through was surrounded by tiny cracks of void. These tiny cracks were Wei Sheng's void sword essence. These void sword energies sealed the crack. Damn it! Chief Elder's gaze landed back on Zhuo. This guy's body was strange. Chief Elder managed to calm his mind. He knew that if he could not take care of these people, he would not have a chance to break the seal and flee into the endless void. If he received even the slightest disruption when he went into the endless void, even a god level would die. When he made the decision, Chief Elder calmed down. The central plains were rapidly collapsing, but there wasn't any panic on his face. There was enough time. Suddenly, the Shin glyph that had wrapped around a Gui gave off purple flames. The Shin glyph was burned away like dry grass and revealed a Gui's body. Almost at the same time, a figure suddenly burrowed out of the ground and shot into the sky. It was Zhongru, who had been dragged underground by the lava. This group was really troublesome. Chief Elder sighed in astonishment. Just now, Zhuo and Wei Sheng had pressed him hard enough that he had not attention to pay to these two people. This allowed the two to break free of their restraints. The youths all had different powers, but they had some similar traits such as being hardy. Chief Elder's gaze became calm and serene again. Since this was the case, then head take care of them together. I'll let you see what the uncrossable chasm between a true god level and you is. Chief Elder slowly closed his eyes and spread his arms. Chapter 846, Glyph C. A Shin glyph appeared beside the Chief Elder, then another one, a third, a fourth. All kinds of glyphs grew in the air and spread outwards. In a few moments, there were countless glyphs floating in the end, packed in and endless. Some were Shin glyphs, some were seal scripts, they were of different colors and flashed with different lights. Chief Elder's expression was solemn, his spread arms seemed to be embracing the world. This was like a galaxy, all kinds of stars vast and endless. The Shin glyphs were like those enormous and bright stars, the seal scripts like those small and dim stars. Each glyph spun slowly and released a force field that belonged to themselves. A sea of glyphs. A hint of shock flashed through Zhuo's eyes, but then he recovered. He had to admit that in the field of Shin glyphs and seal scripts, Chief Elder was the best at present. Even around him, there were several glyphs that he did not recognize. This glyph C contained billions of glyphs. Was this god level? A daze entered Zhuo's eyes. Seal scripts and Shin glyphs, this was also the field he was skilled in, but he was lacking in comparison to Chief Elder. This was the world of Shin glyphs. A Shin glyph grandmaster. Yet there was no time for Zhuo to sigh in astonishment. He quickly found the danger of this world of Shin glyphs. Nearby, a Shin glyph suddenly lit up. 7 seal scripts were attracted to it and released light at the same time. Suddenly, an arrow of ice shot out of a light blue seal script. Zhuo did not change expression. When the ice arrow reached him, it was turned to steam by the sun Shin fire that surrounded Zhuo. Yet this ice arrow seemed to awaken the other seal scripts and Shin glyphs. Whoosh! Ice arrows, waves of wind, lightning, flowing fire. They shot at Zhuo from all directions, hissing and cracking. Sparks flew around Zhuo. The domineering and powerful sun Shin fire dealt easily with these normal attacks. But Zhuo did not have a happy expression. He actually felt a foreboding sense of unease. The entire glyph C started to spun. All of the Shin glyphs and seal scripts seemed to be awakened. All of the seal scripts around Zhuo started to attack. Each seal script had a different attack. The lights came in a storm and were so rapid they almost obscured Zhuo's vision. Zhuo immediately felt a slight pressure. The power of the seal scripts was limited and they could not break through Zhuo's Shin fire. However, there were too many of them and too many different kinds of powers. The pressure when tens of thousands of completely different powers attacked together could be imagined. Whoosh! The flames around Zhuo exploded. The burning sun flows inside his body seemed to be angered by the rain of attacks. The sun Shin fire became even more ferocious. At this time, Zhuemo was a ball of fire. The lights released by the seal scripts were like moths flying towards a flame. Once they came close, they would turn into sparks and disappear. Zhuemo did not dare to relax. Right now, the seal scripts were the ones attacking, and the Shin glyphs had not moved. Shin glyphs were of a higher level than seal scripts and more powerful. As expected by Zhuemo, a Shin glyph suddenly lit up with blue light. A blue figure like that of a female slowly rose from the Shin glyph. The blue female seemed like a ball of flowing water. She held a deep blue bottle in her hand. When it appeared, Zhuemo had a strong feeling of danger. She held the blue bottle high up in her hand, the mouth of the bottle was turned to face Zhuemo splash. A flow of water poured out of the bottle and landed by her feet, turning into a raging river that swept towards Zhuemo. The roar of the river covered all other sounds. Zhuemo stared closely at the river in front of him. A strong feeling of danger rose. Using water to subdue fire. Zhuemo was not surprised. Water subduing fire was a basic law. The sun Shin fire was domineering, but it was not invincible. If there was Shin fire, there would be Shin water. With a Shin fire like the sun Shin fire that was the most domineering and masculine, there was naturally the darkest and gentlest Shin water. Shin water. The river in front of him was made completely of Shin water. Zhuemo was shocked. He had been shocked when Chief Elder had managed to summon the Void Sky Lee fire. He hadn't thought the other was able to summon Shin water with a wave of his hand. His guess was right. Chief Elder had summoned a Shin water. The Void Spring Shin water which came from the Endless Void. There were many Void Springs in the Endless Void and the Void Spring Shin water came from that. Chief Elder desperately wanted to end the battle. He used the power of the Shin glyphs to find a void spring and summoned the void spring Shin water. Was this god level? The burning sun flows seemed to detect the danger the river posed. They became more active. The burning sun flow that speed up in its circulation set off golden arcs of flame. The golden arcs of flame appeared for only short moments, flashing and then disappearing. But the arcs formed and extinguished each other. With the destruction of each arc, there would be a gold spark that landed in Zhuemo's body. However, Zhuemo had no time to study what these golden sparks were. As the burning flow became active again, Zhuemo seemed to feel as though his mind fell back into a great sea of fire. His consciousness started to blur again. However, having gained some experience, Zhuemo took a deep breath. He faced the charging Shin water and threw a punch just like previously. Without needing his consciousness effort, a small burning flow started to burn. Boom! A terrifying pillar of fire erupted out of Zhuemo's burnt right hand. The pillar of fire and the flow of water collide heavily in the air. The moment that the Shin water and Shin fire came into contact, light appeared. Zhuemo's vision was blinded and he could not see a thing. Boom boom boom. The enormous sounds of the explosion deafened Zhuemo's ears. A faint rings of light quickly spread from where the two had collided. Everywhere the circle of light passed, the seal scripts immediately shattered. Zhuemo was swept by the ring of light. It was like being hammered. The flames around him suddenly lit up. Taking advantage of the moment of clarity, Zhuemo gritted his teeth and threw another punch. Boom! Another pillar of fire. The Shin fire immediately gained the upper hand. The void spring Shin water continued to retreat as the Shin fire moved forward. The line of fire was pressing close to the feet of the woman holding the bottle. The void spring Shin water was a level below the sun Shin fire. The void spring had not been large and there wasn't much Shin water inside. Zhuemo had a complete sun crystal seed that contained a great deal more Shin fire. At this time, nearby, another Shin glyph suddenly lit up. This was a white Shin glyph. The light it gave off was also white. When the Shin glyph lit up, it immediately attracted the surrounding seal scripts to it. In a blink, it became several times bigger. Roar! A white dragon of ice flew out of the Shin glyph, stretched its body and leapt at the Shin fire. When the ice dragon appeared, the temperature of the surrounding air dropped dramatically. It was the first time Zhuemo saw such a condensed and detailed dragon. This snowy white dragon had an elegant body, its scales like crystal that reflected the light beautifully. Ice Shin glyph. The cold air spun as the ice dragon coiled and silently spread to every corner. The presence of the sun Shin fire suddenly stilled. The void spring Shin water took the chance to push the Shin fire back in Zhuemo's direction. The icy cold energy caused Zhuemo's mind to clear up greatly. Such powerful Shin glyph. Zhuemo had never seen such a strong cold energy. If he didn't have the burning heat of the sun inside him, he definitely would not last long with just his own Shin power. But in the next moment, Zhuemo's expression changed slightly. The cold energy did not cause the burning flow in his body to retreat, it actually enraged the burning flows. They became more active. Hiss hiss hiss. The golden arcs of flame became more frequent and more golden sparks fell in Zhuemo's body. Zhuemo managed to detect the pattern. If the burning flow became active, his consciousness would be pulled into the sea of fire and start to blur. If this occurred, the best way was to channel the burning flow out. The amount of burning sun flow they had used was a drop in a sea. The amount of sun Shin fire contained in one drop of the burning sun flow was astounding. Without a word, Zhuemo gritted his teeth. Another punch. A blinding pillar of light headed for the ice dragon. The ice dragon was unusually alert. Its body shifted and it easily avoided Zhuemo's attack. It roamed around Zhuemo. With every shift of its body, it would cause a ripple of cold energy. As the ripples of energy came, the temperature continued to fall. Bone-chilling coldness caused the sun Shin fire to quickly wither. Each complete Shin glyph had great abilities. Chief Elder's skill in Shin glyphs was peerless. After stepping into God level, he managed to complete many of his originally incomplete Shin glyphs. The content that he had found cryptic and hard to understand before were now restored with just a thought. This Ice Breath Shin Dragon glyph was one of those. He had just obtained a small part of it and used it to study. After entering God level, the mysteries of this Shin glyph was completely exposed to him. From that small part, he was able to reconstruct an entire Shin glyph. If he could harvest God-level cold energy and merge it into this Shin glyph to summon the true Ice Breath Shin Dragon, the power would be much greater than the dragon now. When the waves of cold energy touched the flames around Zhuemo, they snapped and popped, creating sparks. It appeared as though fireworks were being set off around Zhuemo, the sparks never ceasing. Seeing the pillar of fire was not effective against the ice dragon, Zhuemo decided to attack the Shin water first. Boom boom boom. After several pillars of fire hit the Shin water was unable to withstand it and retreated. The ice dragon seemed to understand. It suddenly appeared next to Zhuemo, and opened its mouth to blow a cold breath on Zhuemo. This cold breath was much stronger than the cold energy previously released. Covered in the flames, Zhuemo shook from the cold. This cold energy seemed to be able to pass through the sun Shin fire and hit his body. The Shin fire immediately weakened. A dense layer of frost appeared on Zhuemo's body. The ice frost was eerie. It did not melt within the flames. So cold. Zhuemo's brain almost froze. A strange and peerless cold continued to spread through his body. The sun Shin fire seemed to be ineffective against the coldness. Boom boom boom. The burning sun flow became enraged. They moved at an unprecedented speed, the arcs of flame almost turning Zhuemo's body into gold. Yet the cold energy was unusually hard. No matter how the sun Shin fire burned, it did not change at all. Zhuemo was trapped between ice and fire. The surface of his body was bone-chillingly cold, the inside of his body burning like lava. The ice dragon took the chance to blow out more cold breath. With every blow, it would wither slightly and become smaller. After 12 breaths, the body of the ice dragon had halved. A thick layer of ice covered Zhuemo and his figure could not be seen. There was only a large piece of ice. Zhuo was completely sealed by ice. The ice dragon showed a relieved expression. Its ice breath was peerless in its cold. 12 of its breaths could seal anything. Even after 10,000 years, it would not melt. Sleep forever in this piece of sighing ice. The ice dragon was about to turn and leave. Crack! The ice layer shattered. A hand reached out of the thick ice layer without warning and grabbed the ice dragon. Chapter 847, Each person's intentions. The hand breaking through the ice grabbed the ice dragon. The red burning sun flows hissed when they came into contact with the ice dragon. A ball of mist rose. The clear scales started to melt rapidly. The ice dragon struggled fiercely in Zhuo's hand. Yet Zhuo's fingers were a steel trap and did not budge at all. The ice dragon twisted furiously as it continued to spit out ice breaths at Zhuo. The ice continued to grow thicker, but no matter how it struggled, it was unable to break free of his grip. The sunshine fire in Zhuo's hand became even hotter and more wild. The golden sunshine fire covered the ice dragon. The ice dragon melted at a visible rate. With a wail, it turned into a ball of mist and disappeared into the air. The ice breath Shin dragon glyph turned into a handful of fragments and also dissipated. A pillar of fire flew out of Zhuo's hand towards the Shin water glyph. The figure standing on top of the Shin water glyph had been fighting with the sun Shin fire. She had not expected the situation to change abruptly. The pillar of fire brutally crashed onto her body. With a great explosion, the Shin glyph shattered. The surrounding seal scripts seemed to be swept by a wave of air, clearing off a large area. The pressure on Zhuo lessened. The Shin fire on his body grew. The ice turned into mist, sizzling and turning into vapor. The Shin ice was unique and should have been the one kind of Shin ice that could stop the great majority of Shin fires. However, the ice dragon and the sun Shin fire were not on the same level after all. The burning sun flows became even more active in Zhuo's body and started to rampage again. The Shin ice could not last one blow in front of the rampaging sun Shin fire. But Zhuo had pretended to be trapped by the ice to lure the ice dragon closer to deliver a killing blow. That ice dragon was truly too intelligent. When Zhuo's consciousness had been floating in the sea of flame, he thought of this idea. After defeating 2 Shin glyphs, the burning sun flow seemed to be in an excited state as though it had defeated a great enemy. Consequently, Zhuo's consciousness was pulled into the sea of flame again. Damn it! The extreme temperature caused Zhuo's consciousness to blur again. The sea of glyphs turned and several Shin glyphs appeared. It was easy to find remains of Shin glyphs on the market. Many people would sell them. The price was high for the average person, but they really were not too expensive to a big sect like Tianhuan. If Chief Elder wasn't peerless in his study of Shin glyphs, the remnants of Shin glyphs would have only be collected and kept stored in a corner of Tianhuan. But at this time, these collected Shin glyphs all showed their power. The sun crystal seed was not a common object. Even in the vast, desolate, and empty endless void that was also in its own way rich in all kinds of things, the sun was forever one of the conquerors. It had a long lifespan, unrivaled light and heat. Accumulated and purified over millions of years, the power inside it was astounding, abundant and pure. When a few more Shin glyphs flew close, the burning sun flows in Zhuo's body immediately reacted. With Zhuo as the center, the wave of fire spread in all directions. Boom! The burning and bright golden wave of flame caused all the seal scripts it passed through to burn to dust or light aflame. The Shin glyphs that had all caught fire released light to fight against the sun Shin fire. The domineering and bright sun Shin fire was full of destructive power. Chief Elder finally was sure what was inside Zhuo's body. A sun crystal seed, it definitely was the sun crystal seed. The legendary relic of the sun tribe. His eyes were wide as he looked at Zhuo like he saw a ghost. Sun crystal seed. The relic of the sun tribe that had dominated the ancient era. Even in the ancient era, it was one of the world's greatest treasures. The legends said that the sun crystal seed was made from a sealed sun. Was it really a sun? Chief Elder felt a chill. He should have thought of this a long time ago. Such endless sunshine fire. Except for that legendary sun crystal seed, what other thing had such presence? Looking at Zhuo, who seemed to be made of fire, Chief Elder had an even stronger feeling of danger. When his gaze landed on the sun glyph that appeared on Zhuo's body, he sighed slightly. The sun glyph on Zhuo's body was not complete, meaning he could not express all the power of the sun crystal seed. There was still a chance. The sun crystal seed was powerful, but it was inanimate and it did have weaknesses. It was a pity that his Shin glyphs were all partially restored from remnants that he found in the Shoujo world. These Shin glyphs were not the top tier. Maybe after this battle, he would go into the endless void to find those even more powerful Shin glyphs. But this was enough to deal with these people. Chief Elder was full of confidence. The blood sword trembled in Wei Xing's hand. Hiss hiss hiss, several sword energies flashed and disappeared. Several hair-thin black energies appeared on the Shin glyph in front of him. The Shin glyph lit up with blinding light. Snap, the Shin glyph that just lit up shattered like fireworks. Wei Xing did not pause. He flashed and disappeared like a bloody shadow. He was extremely fast, the sword in his hand moving casually. His sword essence surged and then an area of several dozen zhang would be enclosed within and the seal scripts inside would shatter. The god-killing blood sword gave a sharp wail. It was extremely excited. How many years had it been since it had fought such an enjoyable battle? It smelt the scent of blood, the scent of a god level. Suddenly, a strange howl came from nearby. The other came quickly. Before the howl ended, a blurry shadow seemed to appear in front of Wei Xing out of thin air. Wei Xing's expression was calm. The blood sword in his hand shook and stabbed. The shadow swung and then disappeared. So fast. Wei Xing's brow furrowed slightly, his body turning and his right leg following along to take half a step forward. The blood sword swung at the place he had just been. A burning light formed at the tip of his sword. Ding! A clear sound like metal grinding against metal caused Wei Xing's ears to tingle. That shadow also paused. Wei Xing finally saw what this was. It was an ape-like creature half a man's height. Its entire body was covered in a layer of black smoke, its limbs extremely long. At its fingertips were two bloody curved bone daggers that looked like sickles. Little Double Sickle Ghost. The Little Double Sickle Ghost were hunters that lived in the endless void. They were wary and vicious and easily moved through the endless void. Wei Xing did not hesitate. The sword essence shot towards the other. Yet what occurred astounded him. The Little Double Sickle Ghost wailed and sucked that hair-thin void sword essence that could cut everything into its stomach. What Wei Xing did not know was that the Little Double Sickle Ghost was born knowing how to use the endless void. Using void cracks to cut, slice, and counter it was something it was familiar with. Wei Xing's expression did not change as sword essence erupted. The Little Double Sickle Ghost had an expression of mockery. It opened its mouth and sucked. The sword essence was sucked into its mouth. Wei Xing's expression was calm as he shook the blood sword. Numerous sword essences sprouted out. The mockery on the face of the Little Double Sickle Ghost grew even greater. Just like previously, it opened its mouth and the sword essences flew towards its mouth. Dealing with void cracks was as simple as eating. Then its expression froze on its face. A dot of light lit up in its stomach. Suddenly, a rice-sized dot of light exploded in its stomach. The peerlessly sharp sword essence exploded. The stomach of the Little Double Sickle Ghost was cut up. The ghost wailed before it turned into mist and dissipated in the air. Wei Xing had detected its weakness after observing him a long time ago. When he found the Little Double Sickle Ghost could consume cracks of the endless void, he first used the void sword essence to lure it into consuming more and then mixed in a compressed sword essence among the flood of void sword essences. The Little Double Sickle Ghost immediately fell for it. Wei Xing didn't look at the Little Double Sickle Ghost's fading body. His figure flashed like lightning as he traveled through the seal scripts and Shin glyphs in search of the Chief Elder. He knew that they would win only if they found and defeated the Chief Elder. Otherwise, the endless glyph sea could exhaust them and lead to their deaths. If Chief Elder dragged it on until the central plains collapsed, everyone would die together. That was also a solution. But Wei Xing still had a thread of hope. If they could kill Chief Elder soon enough, maybe they could fight for a chance for Shidi to escape. Unlike Zhua Mo, who was fighting in the Sea of Flames, everyone else was clear-minded. Mo Cloud Sea had an unique way to communicate between them. At this time, everyone was stronger than usual. Even in the Sea of Glyphs, Wei Xing was still able to communicate his thoughts to everyone else. Other than Agui, everyone else immediately responded. Wei Xing had no attention to spare as he charged into the center of the glyph sea. He was not skilled in forming plans. He was only skilled in one thing, fighting. Wei Xing passed through the glyphs like lightning. After defeating a few dozen Shin glyphs that blocked his path, Wei Xing finally saw Chief Elder. At the same time, 3 figures entered his view. Zhong Ru, Seng Lian Er, and Wu Li. He saw a flash of purple light out of the corner of his eyes, Agui. Everyone had arrived. Chief Elder looked calmly at the 5 people that had charged over. Compared to just now, the 5 had even stronger presences. Chief Elder's mouth couldn't help but curve. He could feel that other than Wei Xing, everyone else had greatly expended their power. Burning Shin power could increase their strength, but it would wring out every thread of potential. Those that burned Shin power would feel that they were more powerful than they ever had been. This feeling of power would numb them so that they would not be sparing with their Shin power. Also, burning Shin power was for when their lives were on the line, who would hold back. Of the 5, 3 were at the end of their ropes. Wei Xing still had most of his abilities, and Agui the majority of her power. The Shin glyphs in the glyph sea were made from the remnants of Shin glyphs he collected. The great majority were not strong. However, even the weakest Shin glyph was still a Shin glyph. They definitely had expended a great portion of Shin power to reach him. There were 6 Shin glyphs floating around him. These 6 Shin glyphs were the strongest of the Shin glyphs he had collected and were his ultimate move. Wei Xing and the others did not know that Chief Elder had been preparing these 6 Shin glyphs for escaping the Jie's collapse. The 6 Shin glyphs would protect the Chief Elder when the central plains crumbled. While he could escape with his life, it was not possible to travel through the completely undamaged. He would likely have to recover for 10 years. So until he had to, Chief Elder did not want to use these glyphs. Wei Xing and the others' intentions of finishing the battle quickly was also what he wanted. Confident that the 5 people could not defeat him, Chief Elder raised his head and glanced at the ball of fire in the distant part of the glyph sea. If there were any uncertain factors. Only that person. Chapter 848, Pu and Wei Sheng was like an unsheathed sword. In Mo Cloud Sea, if people were said to be both in fear and awe of Lil Miss, then everyone was full of the utmost respect for Teacher Wei. Teacher Wei never got angry, he would only smile gently, and then patiently demonstrate again and again to point out the differences. Wei Xing had an indescribable presence. People would unconsciously believe every word he said. No one would suspect he would not be able to do something. Almost no one had seen Teacher Wei angry. Wei Xing was as vast and heavy as a mountain. He was the idol of all the sword Xiu in Mo Cloud Sea. When Teacher Wei made a decision, he would give up all restraint. At this time, his edges were all displayed. He was like a sword that could not be stopped. People would not doubt that he could cut open the sky. The 6 Shin glyphs revolved around Chief Elder, and Wei Xing immediately knew the others' intentions. His heart was calm, even while the furious power of the blood sword in his hand battered at his mind. The god-killing blood sword was like a beast that just tasted blood. It became frantic, and tried to break free of all restraints. Yet Wei Xing's mind did not have any weakness. The blood sword-shaped pupils calmly gazed at Chief Elder. Wei Xing's calm caused Chief Elder to feel a thread of trepidation. Wei Xing did not recognize the 6 Shin glyphs, but he knew that something that Chief Elder, who had summoned such a vast sea of glyphs, was keeping back as a killing move. It definitely was not normal. Without any hesitation, he swung his sword, releasing sword essence like usual. The void sword essence was like hair blown into disarray by the wind, floating towards Chief Elder. Suddenly, a black shin glyph among the six lit up. Then a black whirlpool appeared in the center of the shin glyph. The void sword essence was sucked into the black whirlpool. That familiar feeling. Wei Xing narrowed his eyes. The center of the whirlpool was the endless void. No wonder he felt it was so familiar. Wei Xing was right. Chief Elder's shin glyph was called the Endless Whirlpool. Its greatest ability was to consume everything. While he knew the ability of the whirlpool, Wei Xing did not have a good solution. His void sword essence was powerful, but the two were from the same source. He could not defeat the whirlpool. Also, the smaller gray spinning whirlpools in the larger whirlpool were clearly not so simple. Wei Xing was not shocked. He raised the blood sword in his hand. His face suddenly turned pale. Threads of blood appeared on the sword. The sword moved as though it was alive. An indescribable pressure immediately pressed on the battlefield. Wei Xing did not seem to see. His sword flickered and a drop of blood was thrown off the tip of the sword. It slowly flew towards the whirlpool. The blood bead contained an indescribable pressure. The speed of the black whirlpool was affected and its revolutions slowed. Chief Elder's expression became grave as he stared closely at the bat of blood. The blood bead flew to the center of the whirlpool and suddenly exploded. A spray of bloody mist landed on the whirlpool. The whirlpool was dyed with an imperceptible tinge of blood. The thin blood color did not seem to affect the whirlpool, but Wei Xing perceptively felt that the power of the whirlpool was slightly weaker than before. But before Wei Xing could celebrate, the color was quickly dragged into the gray spinning scripts. The whirlpool recovered. Those gray whirlpools were as strange as expected. Seeing this, a tinge of an imperceptible smile appeared on Chief Elder's mouth. He turned his gaze to another direction. The chains around Ague became even more tangible and tighter. They were tightly embedded into the bone armor. The purple flames burned. Her face was pale, and her eyes flashed with bright purple flame. The undying ghost had slightly changed. The chains that had bit into the bone armor started to gradually merge into one with the bone armor. The bone armor that looked like gray crystal had a few marks of crisscrossing flames. Agui's purple flames on the armor gradually receded, but the bone dagger in Agui's hands were still covered in a layer of purple. Agui's body suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time, a blue shin glyph lit up. A ray of blue light came from the shin glyph and covered Agui. Hiss! A thread of blue smoke came out of Agui's undying ghost. A faint layer of gray mist floated out of the surface of the undying ghost. This seemingly thin layer actually stopped the blue light. Chief Elder was astounded. Such thick and pure energy. It was the first time he closely examined Agui's bone armor. When he looked, he jumped in fright. Shin device raiment. It was a Shin device raiment. The bone armor seemed to have been soaked in energy for a long time, to the point it didn't have any impurity. It seemed as clear as gray crystal. However, how many years would it take to gain such purity and clarity? Forgers always pursued the clearest and purest materials. The purer the material, the higher the grade it was. This bone armor was so high in grade, so pure, that Chief Elder had never seen something like it before. Even at a level like Chief Elder, he couldn't help but feel a hint of greed at seeing such quality. But then he smiled self-mockingly. It was not good to divide one's attention when fighting. He refocused and urged the blue shin glyph further. The blue ray of light started to spin slowly. As the ray of blue light spun, the power contained in the ray of light increased greatly. Agui's charge slowed to a halt. The blue ray of light seemed to contain a great force. The faint layer of gray mist on her armor quickly disappeared. Agui suddenly released the two bone daggers in her hands. Chief Elder now found that there was an exquisite chain connecting the hilts of the two daggers. The bone daggers with their purple flames were like two bolts of lightning. They dragged the long chain as they flew towards the Shin glyph, releasing the blue ray of light. Clink clink. The bone daggers passed through the ray of light and hit the Shin glyph. The chain was pulled straight and they looked like two long spears. Whoosh! Two waves of purple flame quickly reached towards the Shin glyph from Agui's hands along the chain. At the same time, purine energy that was wrapped around the chains caused the flames to erupt in power. The two bone daggers suddenly turned into two claws that grabbed onto the Shin glyph. The ray of blue light seemed to be stimulated. It became extremely bright and the hissing from Agui's armor was much stronger. The layer of gray mist on top of the bone armor was quickly disappearing. Chief Elder's gaze focused. He detected danger from Agui's move. However, this, grinding blue light, was one of the strongest Shin glyphs he had. This blue ray of light did not look like much, but anything it shone on would be ground into dust by the power it contained. The grinding blue light was not complete when he obtained it, but he saw its strength. Due to this, he had spent a great deal of energy on it. After reaching God level, the increase in his cultivation allowed him to repair the grinding blue light immediately. However, the Shin glyph of the grinding blue light was extremely complex. He still needed time to complete it. But even so, the present grinding blue light's power could not be underestimated. The grinding blue light was also unique in that the longer one resisted, the stronger the blue light became. As expected, the grinding blue light became even brighter. The gray mist on Agui became an extremely faint layer. Agui's figure started to tremble like the chains in the blue light. Because of the great force, they were trembling. However, Agui's figure did not waver. The chain in her hands grew longer. The two chains were like two nimble snakes that started to climb and coil around the Shin glyph. They passed through the crevices between the Shin glyph. The purple flame that was usually unstoppable seemed to have lost its power and couldn't do anything against the Shin glyph. Agui seemed to be unaffected by this. She only had the chain climb and warp around the Shin glyph. Chief Elder looked in interest at Agui's actions. He had a very limited understanding of the undying Shin punishment. This punishment that was called the cruelest of the ancient era had only left behind a few sparse lines. The records he had collected about this was pitifully few. Maybe, he could take this chance to observe the undying Shin punishment. He might gain something. The undying Shin punishment and the Shin device raiment interested him. Chief Elder did not think about the other three people. The three had used up too much of their Shin power just now. He only needed to use one Shin glyph to restrain them. Up until now, his plan was successful. As he observed Agui, he recalculated the time. The entire battle was in his control. Quickly, a smile appeared on his lips. No matter how he calculated, he had enough time. This eased his worries. At this time, he seemed to feel something. He raised his head, his expression shocked. He turned his face to look in another direction. In a far part of the glyph sea, in the direction of the ball of fire, a presence was furiously growing. The fire burned fiercely. The arcs of flame formed sparks of gold that permeated Zuomo's body. In a daze, Zuomo did not notice that the Sun Shin glyph in his body was slowly growing and forming. If Zuomo was clear-minded, he would be shocked to find the growth of the Shin glyph was not along his skin, but like a tree root that grew out many strands of gold and wrapped around Zuomo's entire body. As the Sun Shin glyph grew, the burning flames seemed much dimmer. If one could see through Zuomo's body, they would see the root-like Sun Shin glyph was drawing from the red burning sun flows to feed Zuomo's body, like a tree taking water from ground. The Sun Shin glyph quickly became tinged with red, and became brighter. Soon, the root-like Sun Shin glyph became the same color as the burning sun flows. Zuomo's face showed an expression of pain. In Zuomo's sea of consciousness, Pu Yao floated in the air, the eerie black fire dancing in the air. Are you prepared? His voice was as sharp as a knife, so cold there was no emotion. Yes. A muffled voice came from the armor below. Wei was completely dressed, the armor covered in marks of age and battle. He held a sword and stood next to the black steel, his figure straight like a spear. Looking at the steel below, Pu Yao expressionlessly pulled aside the hair that covered his left eye. Chapter 849, Are You Willing? A ball of black mist floated in Pu Yao's left eye. There seemed to be tens of thousands of ghosts giving ear-splitting wails within the mist. Yet both Pu Yao and Wei were unaffected by the wailing. The black mist flew and entered the steel. The steel trembled violently. Threads of black mist emerged from under the steel and wrapped around Pu Yao and Wei. The steel slowly rose and revealed an ancient altar. At this time, Wei, who was dressed in armor, raised the thick sword in his hand and swung down. Boom! Wei split the steel in two. A ball of black mist slowly rose out of the bisected steel. The roiling mist seemed to show indistinct faces. In this moment, a strange field of power spread. An ancient voice came out of the mist, as though it had existed forever, with indescribable age and power. To abide by my ceremony, to execute my desires, to swear my oath, will thou? Will thou? Will thou? The last two words were like thunder. Yet Pu Yao and Wei seemed to ignore the voice with practice. Wei lamented, I don't know when this boy will be able to get us out. I hadn't thought that a guy as emotionless as you will sacrifice yourself to save others. TSK, never thought of it, never thought of it. Pu Yao said coldly, I have owed rent for too long, and still have to repay it. That's true, Wei nodded and said. This boy isn't in a good state this time. In any case, it is just death. I feel that it is better to die in there. Not so painful, I always feared pain. Don't waste words, work, Pu Yao said coldly. All right. Wei did not waste words and stood next to Pu Yao. The two stood gravely next to the ball of mist, the sound of, will thou, echoing in their eyes. The two exchanged a look and said at the same time. Willing. The sound of, will thou, suddenly stopped. Two black lights suddenly flew out of the black mist and entered the body of the pair. Wei's damaged armor was suddenly restored. A set of armor appeared on Pu Yao's body. The armor on Pu Yao's body was slender and exquisite. Threads of flame appeared from the armor. There were many red triangle glyphs on the duo's armor. If it was someone knowledgeable about ancient ceremonies, they would recognize that these triangle glyphs appeared on sacrificial items. Pu Yao and Wei had made themselves into sacrifices. Great power filled their bodies. Of all the sacrificial ceremonies, the power obtained from the one that used the person as the sacrifice was the strongest. The two both wore gravestone armor. Because the two were just souls, and did not have a body, once they sacrificed themselves, they would be imprisoned in the gravestone and forever stay there. Unless someone of the greatest power could break through the gravestone to save them. Come! Wei shouted. He raised the large sword in his hand. Come! Pu Yao's cold voice was like a blade. A black line of fire extended from his hand. The black line of fire hit Wei's raised sword. The fire immediately adhered itself to the sword and in a flash, shrouded the sword. Endless flame came from Pu Yao's hand. When the last wisp of flame left Pu Yao's hand, Pu Yao stumbled before he steadied himself. The armor he wore was dim and covered in cracks. Pu Yao was fixed on Wei's sword. Wei's armor gave off great light, the light flowing towards the sword in his hand. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of cracking started from Wei's armor at his feet and spread upwards. Calf, knee, thigh, waist, until it reached his wrists that held the sword. The armor he wore was white and without any light. Wei gave a great bellow, swinging that great sword flowing with light and fire to shove it into the ground. Boom! Zhuo Mo's sea of consciousness immediately split apart. The Ascension glyph that had struggled to absorb the burning sun flow seemed to break free of its last restraints. It started to grow into Zhuo Mo's head. The threads of Ascension glyph were like roots in soil. They reached into Zhuo Mo's head, and the swollen power caused them to rapidly change. A golden seedling rapidly grew at a visible rate at the spot where Zhuo Mo's consciousness had been before. The infant seedling that was growing was a vent for the burning sun flow, the slows rushing into the root system. It caused the burning sun flows that rampaged through Zhuomo's body to be sucked up by the Shen glyph that covered his body and was transported into Zhuomo's mind. A golden seedling quickly grew. Under the seedling, a lone gravestone stood silently. Zhuomo felt the pressure around him quickly decrease. His mind immediately became clear. An unknown amount of time later, he opened his eyes. His body that had been about to erupt had finally calmed down. When Zhuomo inspected his body, he was astounded. Almost half of the burning sun flows in his body had gone away. When Zhuomo saw the golden tree sprout, he was dumbstruck. Sun tree, wasn't this the sun tree? What happened? Where was his sea of consciousness? Pu Yao and Wei. Zhuomo quickly found the gravestone under the sun tree. Two figures appeared on the flat and glossy gravestone, one covered in flames, one dressed in armor. Zhuomo was struck by lightning. Pu Yao and Wei. He was so familiar with those two people that even if they burnt into ash, he would recognize them. The two figures on the gravestone were not clear, but Zhuomo recognized it was Pu Yao and Wei at a glance. In a blink, he understood what had happened. Tears uncontrollably streamed down. Yet when the tears left his eyes, they turned into steam. They only left behind marks on his face. Zhuomo suddenly saw a small ball of fire under the sun tree. A hint of joy flashed through his eyes. He was familiar with this fire. Pu Yao's black fire. Pu Yao had left this. Was this? He suppressed the joy he felt and beckoned to the black fire. When the fire entered his body shook. After you become stronger, come save us. A few short words, but Zhuomo was in ecstasy. Pu Yao was not dead, Wei was not dead. In this moment, hope filled his heart. He balled his fists. He swore, I will save you. Zhuomo suddenly turned his head. Over there. He sprinted in the direction of the battle. The abundant burning sun flows in his body allowed the sun tree to furiously grow from a seedling into maturity until its branches grew heavy with little tiny suns. It finally stopped absorbing the burning sun flows because it reached its limit. There was about half of the burning sun flows still in Zhuomo's body. With the sun tree stopping its absorption, Zhuomo's body increased in temperature again. The great pain once again came from his body. Zhuomo did not lose clarity. He could withstand pain of this level. Even half of the burning sun flows was not something that Zhuomo could endure. Zhuomo felt as though his body would explode. But Zhuomo still detected a difference. While the pain was still maddening and the feeling of being full was the same as before, Zhuomo found that there was a portion of power under his control. This power came from the Shen glyph. Maybe, or more accurately, it came from the little suns on the sun tree. The sun tree was now in the position that had belonged to Zhuomo's sea of consciousness. The rampaging burning sun flows had passed through the root-like Shen glyph to the sun Shen tree to those little suns. These little suns could release pure sun Shen power, and this power was like Zhuomo had cultivated it himself, and could be used to his will. This portion of Shen power was not something that the burning sun flows repelled. They were from the same source and could coexist. The great pain caused Zhuomo to focus even more. He knew what dangerous state he was in right now. Those that were mentally any weaker would probably still be struggling in the pain. But Zhuomo did not give up. He searched hard among the pain for any chance. He knew that any chance he had was something that everyone was using their lives to trade for. Eldest Shixiang, Agui, Pu Yao, Wei. He couldn't waste this. He did not qualify to give up. He could die, but he could not let everyone's sacrifices become worthless. He turned and sprinted towards where the battle was. Sprinting at top speed, Zhuomo's fighting spirit was like the burning flames. His face was calm and determined, his eyes pressingly bright, his hands balled in fists. He moved forward. Zhuomo's full speed was astounding, and it was faster than flying. A long tail of flames pulled behind his body. The seal scripts in the surroundings flew towards him. He did not stop. His fists covered in flames smashed everything that stopped him into pieces. A shin glyph appeared in front of him. Sharp red light shot towards him. Zhuo did not stop. He crossed his arms in front of him and continued to charge forward. Pop pop pop. The red light rained on his body, and Zhuo's flames suddenly shot forward. The red light disappeared after being swept by the sun shin fire. Almost in a flash, Zhuo appeared beside the shin glyph and punched it. A circle of red light suddenly lit up on Zhuo's hand. Burning Sun Flow. This shin glyph was not high grade to begin with. A tiny bit of burning sun flow was enough to destroy it. Whoosh, the shin glyph turned into dust. Zhuo did not stop and continued to charge. Yet Zhuo's gaze landed on the red circle around his fist. This was the burning sun flow. In that punch, he had only channeled shin power into his fist like usual. He hadn't expected a thread of the burning sun flow was mixed in the shin power. Shin power could manipulate small amounts of the burning sun flow. The power of this punch was multiplied. Zhuo's eyes lit up. The burning sun flow was peerless in its dominance and unstoppable. Wasn't this the best weapon? The more Zhuo thought, the more excited he became. Every drop of the burning sun flow contained countless sun shin fire. If Chief Elder touched even a bit, he would also be injured. At this time, another shin glyph appeared in front of him. Zhuo punched just like before. A dragon of fire howled and charged towards the shin glyph. The shin glyph suddenly sprouted out countless lights that hit the fire dragon. Yet the golden dragon of fire did not collapse. It seemed to be unaffected and smashed on the shin glyph. A red light in the dragon of fire imperceptibly lit up. Boom! The shin glyph shattered immediately. Zhuo howled, the flames growing as he charged forward. He was like an unreasonable dragon of flame that smashed everything placed in front of him. Chapter 850, Nothing to do with rationality. The bright light that suddenly lit up the sky from the direction that wild howl came from. Chief Elder's pupils contracted. Zhuo. He could clearly feel that Zhuo's presence was continuing to rise. Almost at the same time, a dot of fire spread across his vision. Not good. Chief Elder was shocked. Before he could react, the dot of fire charged at him. Snap! Behind Zhuo's golden figure, all of the shin glyphs and seal scripts shattered together, and formed a straight path. Chief Elder's heart continued to sink. To him those shin glyphs were not strong, but he was surprised that Zhuo was able to crush his way through them so easily. The golden flames were the same as before, but the youth that was within the golden flames had completely transformed. Chief Elder felt intimidated, but his expression was normal. The shin glyph that revolved around him flew lightly towards Zhuo. He didn't have much confidence this shin glyph could stop Zhuo. He found at this time that his situation had quickly devolved. He had thought that he would easily take care of Tsing Lianer, Zhong Ru, and Wu Li, but they were unexpectedly hardy. The three of them had entangled onto three shin glyphs, and this meant that he had nothing to defend himself with. Only now did Chief Elder find that these three individuals that he had dismissed were the most important. He couldn't help but feel a thread of regret. If he had used more power to kill these three earlier, he would have three shin glyphs at his disposal right now. With four shin glyphs, he didn't believe that Zhuo would be able to break through his defenses so easily. Finish the battle quickly. Only then would he have the possibility of victory. Murderousness flashed through Chief Elder's eyes. Yet Chief Elder, who detected danger, did not think that the situation was beyond his control. Seeing the droplet of blood completely consumed by the whirlpool, Wei Xing did not panic at all. His eyes became even brighter. He suddenly released the god-killing blood sword in his hand. Under the strong attractive force of the whirlpool, the god-killing blood sword flew towards the whirlpool. The god-killing blood sword flew to the center of the whirlpool. Just as the sword was about to be consumed by the whirlpool, thick fresh blood sprouted from the sword and quickly spread through the whirlpool. In a blink, the whirlpool became a bloody whirlpool. The sticky blood caused the speed of the whirlpool to slow down. The slower it was, the weaker its attractive force. Soon, the whirlpool became a ball of blood. Wei Xing suddenly disappeared from his spot to appear in front of the god-killing blood sword. His hand touched the god-killing blood sword again. His eyes flashing, he shouted, "Break!" The whirlpool died with blood immediately fragmented. The Shin glyph shattered. Wei Xing swayed. His face was bloodless. The Shin glyph was covered in chains. The chains from a gui seemed to be endless. At this time, the grinding blue light was at an astounding strength. The gray mist would be used up almost when it appeared. Crack, crack, crack. A gui's bone armor started to crack. A gui was expressionless. Without realizing it, the purple flames on the tense chains had disappeared. A gray presence spread suddenly from a gui's body and quickly spread along the chains to the Shin glyph. It was strange to see. This gray presence was not affected by the grinding blue light at all. Soon, the gray presence spread on the Shin glyph. When the gray presence took over the last part of the Shin glyph, it disappeared silently in the air. A gui's eyes were also a terrifyingly uniform gray. In a flash, 2 Shin glyphs were defeated. Chief Elder was astounded. The other 3 were astoundingly hardy against the other 3 Shin glyphs. They looked as though they were about to fall, but they never did. The 3 seemed to increase in morale at hearing Zhuo Mo's howl and started to fight back. For some reason, Chief Elder felt even more fear. These people were too hardy, so hardy it was terrifying. He, who had victory within his grasp and held the upper hand the entire time, was in danger. Without reaching God level, burning Shin power meant burning their potential life. Chief Elder could understand normal people's explosion. Each person had potential that would erupt when they encountered danger. But these people's danger had been completely burned away. Why were they still persisting to now? Zhuo Mo, who charged in, did not pause as he leapt at Chief Elder. A Shin glyph appeared in front of him. Yet Zhuo Mo seemed to be possessed. They had paid so much for this chance, sacrificed so much in order to charge here. To charge to Chief Elder. How could he be stopped by a Shin glyph? How could he? Zhuo Mo's eyes were like those of a bloodthirsty wild beast. Without any hesitation, he gathered all of his Shin power. Zhuo Mo felt as though he was about to burn up. Then he would burn. His enemy was in front of him. If he could defeat the Shin glyph, he could defeat Chief Elder. Smash it! Kill him! Zhuo Mo's Shin power erupted out. The deep red burning sun flows erupted with Zhuo Mo's sun Shin power. The golden and red lights gathered at Zhuo Mo's fist. His eyes red, Zhuo Mo shouted, "Kill!" A punch. A blinding light was released. Boom. The Shin glyph was not able to make any attack before it was swallowed by the burning light and destroyed. Chief Elder's expression was shocked. There was a terrifying presence in the light thrown by Zhuo Mo's punch. Zhuo Mo's eruption had come so suddenly and with no warning. In the next moment, Zhuo Mo appeared in front of him, covered in flames. He was even able to see Zhuo Mo's teeth in the flames. How was this possible? Chief Elder's mind was blank. His face was full of disbelief. Zhuo Mo had entered God level. How was it possible? God level. How could Zhuo Mo have entered God level? His Shin power and cultivation was not enough for him to enter God level. But why? Yet Zhuo Mo did not give him any time to think. His fist covered in burning sun flow hit Chief Elder's chest. Crack. Chief Elder's chest collapsed inward. The burning sun flow flowed like water into his body and destroyed his vitality. The enormous power caused Chief Elder's figure to be thrown into the ground and left behind a seemingly bottomless hole in the ground. Chief Elder's presence dissipated, but Zhuo Mo did not feel any joy. In this battle, they had sacrificed too much. Without the Chief Elder's control, the glyph C immediately disappeared. Already at the end of their tether, everyone gave into their fatigue and fell from the sky. Zuo flashed from his spot to appear next to them and catch them. Of everyone, only Wei Sheng was still conscious. His eyes were filled with joy. He had originally planned to defeat Chief Elder as soon as possible, and before his power dissipated, pass his power to Shidi. Maybe Shidi would have a chance to survive. Everyone had ran through the glyph sea without any regard for their lives. When he saw Zuo had entered God level and would be able to escape from here, Wei Sheng had a comforted smile. Zuo felt as though there were knives stabbing his heart. Eldest Shixiang, who was like steel in his eyes, who was never defeated, didn't have any blood in his face. It was terrifyingly pale. Good job. Eldest Shixiang patted Zuo's shoulder as if they were those same youths back at Wukong Mountain. Then he urged, "Go now." Agui's gray presence grew even thicker. She was unconscious. Tsing Lianer's breathing was faint. She did not have her usual indolence and looked like a simple young girl. Zhong Ru was covered in wounds. His face was like gold paper. While he was unconscious, his expression was calm. Walli's figure was slowly fading. In that last punch, a large amount of burning sun flow had been channeled out. At this time, Zuo's body was quickly stabilizing. Chief Elder had been right. Zuo hadn't had enough foundation. Theoretically, he couldn't enter God level. However, Zuo smashing the sun crystal seed had won him a minuscule chance. The burning sun flows contained in the sun crystal seed was far greater than what Chief Elder had accumulated in power. But it was too strong. So strong that before Zuo could use it to step into God level, he would be burned to death. However, Pu Yao and Wei cut apart Zuo's sea of consciousness at the crucial moment so that the sun shin glyph would have new room to grow. It had absorbed half of the burning sun flows, strengthening his shin power, and allowing Zuo to escape from death. He had gained from his misfortune and entered God level. The sacrifice of eldest Shixiang and the others had bought Zuo time. Pu Yao and Wei's sacrifice had saved his life. Wei Sheng and Agui destroying the Shin glyphs, Tsing Lianer, Zhong Ru, and Walli who had entangled the other glyphs with the last vestiges of their strength gave Zuo the conditions to deliver a fatal blow. His chance to survive was one that everyone used their lives to grant. Quick, go. Wei Sheng raised his head to look at the sky and urged. This Jia was about to collapse. Zuo's hand touched Wei Sheng's shoulder. He suddenly grinned at Wei Sheng. Eldest Shixiang, I'm not listening to you this time. Wei Sheng stilled. A burst of Shin power entered Wei Sheng's body from Zuo's hand. Wei Sheng's vision filled with gold and fell unconscious. Zuo carefully put Wei Sheng's body on the ground. Complex golden Shin glyphs floated on Wei Sheng's body. Eldest Shixiang, everyone used their lives to save my life, how can I abandon you in return? Zuo stood as he talked to himself. He walked over to Agui and put his hand on Agui. Agui, young master is really useless. Young master said he would protect you but the result is this. Young master will definitely save and awaken you, no matter the method. The golden Shin glyph floated on Agui's body. Agui's presence was completely sealed up. Zuo's fire had dimmed greatly. He did not stop and did the same to Tsing Lianer, Zhong Ru, and Walli. After entering God level, his understanding of Shin glyphs was much greater. The Jinji he put only had one use, to stop time. The five would always be held in this state. It was not easy for Zuo to cast this Jinji. All of the suns on the sun Shin tree had disappeared. The tree trunk had begun to crack. The hair at his temples started to turn white. His lifespan was quickly decreasing. Zuo did not hesitate. When he finished with all five, the white had spread from the temple to the tips of his hair. Everyone had used their lives to earn him the chance to live. Now that his life was secure and entered God level, he would trade his life for theirs. Maybe they would still all die together. A smile blossomed on Zuo's face. It had nothing to do with rationality. This youth's snowy white hair fluttered in the wind. Chapter 851, The Changes in the World. Silly bird looked dazedly at the white-haired Zhuo. Suddenly, she wailed, the birdsong filled with sorrow. Her intelligence had formed a long time ago, she grew stronger by the day, she was even stronger than those ringmasters. She still remembered that youth in that old desolate courtyard who counted each jingshi, still remembered carrying the unconscious youth from the gates of Lingying sect and struggling back to the sect, still remembered her peeking through the cracks of her feathers as that naked youth used the little art of cloud and rain to cover his important parts, still remembered the person who had traveled over mountains and rivers to search for her, but after finding her point and swore at her. She had become stronger and thought that she would be able to guard him like she did back at Wukong Mountain. Tears spilled from her eyes. She spread her wings, thick fire rising, bright and burning fire erupting into the air. Zhuo was joyfully surprised at silly bird transformation at this moment. At this time, his power had reached an extremely low level. With his present strength, it was not possible to return to Mo Cloud Sea. The most likely outcome was being lost in the endless void. The endless void was not a safe place. Also, Zhuo had to protect other people, so it would be even harder. Silly bird transforming right now meant that he had help. Zhuo swept a gaze across everyone else. He found that only Qing Xiao and the little ones were the only ones left alive. Seeing Zhuo fine, they hurried over. Qing Xiao still had hints of fear on his face. The ground shook violently, volcanoes erupting. The sky seemed to be made out of glass with terrifying cracks spreading across it. Flowing fire fell from the sky, earth fire erupted as geysers into the air. This Jia was about to collapse. Zhuo did not hesitate any longer. The flames around him rose and wrapped around Qing Xiao and the little ones. He shouted, silly bird. Covered in flames, silly bird heard Zhuo's shout and suddenly lowered her head. Go! Zhuo carried everyone to fly into the sky. Silly bird gave a high bark and waved her flame-covered wings to chase after Zhuo. Zhuo finally saw silly bird's complete appearance. Her long tails were like ribbons, the feathers seemed to be made from flame. When she flew, sparks fell down. A word flashed through Zhuo's mind. Phoenix. A roar of laughter spread through the sky. A figure climbed out of a pit. It was Chief Elder. He raised his head to look at the sky. The sky had shattered into countless fragments and fire rained down. His face was terrible, and a large part of his chest had been caved in. He laughed bitterly. His life was gone. Zhuo's attack had completely destroyed all of his vitality. The reason he still managed to climb up was just because he was holding on by a single breath. He could die, but Tianhuan could not. Gathering the last bit of power, he quickly flew in another direction. The sky fire landed on his body, but he did not seem to feel it. Moments later, he had a joyful expression. Found it. There was no one in the yard. Chief Elder quickly flew into the secret room. In the room, Li Xian'er had a joyful expression when she saw Chief Elder. Chief Elder. But when her gaze landed on Chief Elder's abnormal chest, the joy turned to shock. Chief Elder, you. Who could have injured Chief Elder like this? Looking at Li Xian'er, Chief Elder was full of emotion. When he had just entered God level, he had been full of motivation. He hadn't expected to end up in such a state. However, he was not the average person. He quickly gathered his thoughts. Time was short. If he lived, Li Xian'er would just be an accomplished disciple. But if he died, Li Xian'er was crucial to Tianhuan's survival. There is no time, Chief Elder said gravely, I cannot return. After you return, meet the sect leader in secret first to stabilize the situation. Especially with me Nan, you must be cautious. Li Xian'er's face was pale in fright. If Chief Elder died, Tianhuan. She didn't dare to think. Chief Elder rejoiced that he had left a secret escape route when he closed off this jet. This was just his habit. He hadn't expected this habit to have such an effective use. Go. Chief Elder couldn't do anything else. Using the last bit of power, he started the transport. Li Xian Air disappeared with a shocked expression. The Battle of the Central Plains stunned the world. It had been more than 10,000 years since the destruction of a Jie. Only a god-level expert could create such a terrifying result. This battle drastically changed the situation of the world. The destruction of the Central Plains meant that Zhongde and his Abyss Jail battalion had been completely wiped out. The rumors said that the king of Mo Cloud Sea, Zue Mo, also died, but Mo Cloud Sea's movements were not hesitant at all. Before everyone could react, the battalion led by Gongsun Cha was like a sharp dagger that quickly entered the belly Shixian. They did not encounter any resistance on their way. Shixian, who had lost Zhongde, lost their last bit of courage. When Mo Cloud Sea's battalion was deep within Shixian, people finally realized. This was the start of another banquet. Many people still hungered after the banquet that was Xian Kong Temple last time. Anyone that had attended that banquet had gained greatly. The collapse of a titan like Shixian was similarly tempting. Yet the development of the situation was unexpected to all. Mo Cloud Sea's battalions quickly took over and defended many of the important Jies. They did not attempt to take all of Shixian. But those with clear eyes could see that if Mo Cloud Sea finished setting up, they would have control of almost two-thirds of Shixian's territories. Guliang Da's battalion also entered Shixian with Mo Cloud Sea. The other party that moved quickly was Kunlun. Xue Dong led his battalion to quickly enter Shixian. Mu Xian, who had been at a stalemate with Mu Shi, turned quickly and entered Shixian. People finally realized that Kunlun's true target wasn't Mu Shi, their target was Shixian. Unlike Kunlun, who everyone thought had the better chances of conquering territory, no one thought that Mo Cloud Sea would gain much because of Tianhuan's many defensive fortresses. Tianhuan would not allow Mo Cloud Sea to finishing setting up. Yet unexpectedly, Tianhuan did not move at all. They watched as Mo Cloud Sea consolidated their control. What was going on with Tianhuan? People immediately realized that something had happened within Tianhuan. At this time, Tianhuan was having a great inner conflict. Li Xian Air became the target of Minan and the others. Of all of Tianhuan's forces, only she had escaped. These elders wanted to take away her right to succession. The factions led by Gongye Xiaorong supported Li Xian Air instead. The two sides had a great conflict. Minan, one of the 10 great battle generals, led many of the families of Tianhuan to divide their rule, and called themselves the orthodox faction of Tianhuan. Tianhuan split apart. When the news leaked, the world was astounded. Only now did the news that Tianhuan's chief elder was dead spread. Only now were many details of the Battle of the Central Plains exposed. Zue Mo, Wei Sheng, Zhongru, Agui, Tseng Lianer, and Luo Li. The blow that Mo Cloud Sea received was unparalleled. Shixian, Tianhuan, Mo Cloud Sea, this was a battle that all three sides lost. Everyone thought that Mo Cloud Sea, who had lost Zue Mo and these many experts, would quickly crumble like Tianhuan. Unexpectedly, Mo Cloud Sea did not crumble but became even stronger. The battalions led by Gongsun Cha quickly finished their fortification in Shixian. At this time, Gunliang Dao's battalion encountered Xue Dong battalion. Guliang Dao battalion was heavily damaged. Just as it looked as though they were about to be defeated, Gongsun Cha came with reinforcements just in time and set up their army at the flank of Xue Dong battalion. Xue Dong had to withdraw his battalion or risk being pincered, and Guliang Dao's battalion was finally saved. The two great battle generals worked together to restrain Xue Dong battalion. Mu Xian battalion, who entered Shixian, encountered obstruction from Yang Yuanhao battalion. Mu Xian hadn't expected Yang Yuanhao to attack Kunlun and suffered a minor loss. The two sides quickly entered deadlock. Mu Xian's battle style could not be called fierce, and Yang Yuanhao's style was more about being stable. The two ended up in a long drawn-out battle of attrition. Kunlun saw their attack was not going well and immediately put pressure towards the 9 Great Diana sect who supported Yang Yuanhao. Unexpectedly, Yang Yuanhao managed to hold against the pressure from the sects and did not move a step back against Mu Xian. Mu Xian saw that if this continued, Kunlun would lose their last chance, so she started a strong attack. Yang Yuanhao paid a considerable price to stop Mu Xian's fierce attack and successfully caught Mu Xian's weakness after their fierce attack to heavily injure Mu Xian battalion. Yang Yuanhao's face grew greatly after this battle. But Yang Yuanhao holding against the pressure to win against Mu Xian battalion caused the 9 great dhyana sects that were internally warring to fracture. Thunder Sound Temple, Lotus Sutra Temple, Splendid Buddha Temple, Surangama Heart Sect formed the lesser 4 dhyana sections. The others all sided with Kunlun. At this time, no one had a positive outlook on Tianhuan. Xixian was covered in battlefields. The cruel and fierce battles caused many of the other factions to stop and just watch. The fighting between Kunlun and Tianhuan was also fierce. Mu Shuang and Gongye Xiaorong were angered by Minan's betrayal and started an attack on Minan. In the inner conflicts of Tianhuan, Mu Shuang had always kept silent. However, Minan's action of starting a civil war in Tianhuan infuriated this great battle general. The fighting between the two sides was intense. All of the Shoujo world became an even greater battlefield. No place was spared. In the Yao world, using Mu Zai's successful campaign, Ming Yuyi managed to stabilize her power. An unprecedented cleansing of the Yao faction started. This Yao cleansing was so great it surpassed everyone's expectations. Even the one who started it, Ming Yuyi, never thought of it. The Mo territories were also in chaos. Inside the 100 Savage realm, the Mo Shin Temple started to move. They displayed their great power. The Mo martial alliance that Bihan had beaten down became their first target. Time passed and advanced, unstoppable, in battle and chaos. Chapter 852, Coffin Puller. Just like usual, a man sat silently as he waited for the appearance of prey. His body was in the bog with only his head above the mud. His head was hidden by thick branches. In this cold nether bog, there were some strange Mo beasts such as the nether-tailed fox that could be sold for a good price. While these Mo beasts were not aggressive, they were cunning and it was difficult to catch them. However, a man was a skilled hand at this. He was very familiar with the weather in the cold nether bog. He could enter it, and occasionally harvest some rare nether grasses and flowers. He did not need to worry that people would steal from him. It was rare to find other people in the cold nether bog. It was surrounded by a dangerous nether mist. If he didn't have his own methods, he would be unable to enter. Even the mud of the bog he was hiding in contained extremely strong nether energy. This was formed from the corpses of Mo beasts buried in the bog. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the distance. Woo-splash, woo-splash. A man frowned. He had never heard a sound like this before. His heart suddenly jumped. Had a Mo beast from deep in the cold nether bog come out? When this thought rose, his blood seemed to freeze. He was able to enter the cold nether bog, but he never dared to actually go deep into this bog. There were many nether beasts beyond his capabilities there. His ancestors passed down tales that said the cold nether bog's depths led to the 9 levels of the underworld. A man thought if there really was an underworld, but if there was, then it wasn't strange if it really was in the depths of the cold nether bog. With every mile one went into the cold nether bog, the danger would increase dramatically. The depths of the cold nether bog was the paradise of those dangerous and large Mo beasts. Once, he had seen an unknown Mo beast rampage its way over. Even when he thought of that vicious and powerful presence now, he felt as though it was a nightmare. He was lucky that time and he was completely immersed in the bog, otherwise he probably would have died. So when a man heard an unfamiliar sound, he felt his heart rise up to his throat. The sound grew closer, and he grew more nervous. The sound came from the nearby bushes. He stared the bushes and unconsciously held his breath. Trying to run away now was the stupidest action. Being able to hear the sound meant that the Mo beast was very close. Hiding in the bog right now was the correct choice. Suddenly, when it appeared in his view, he stilled. A person. It was a person. A man with snowy white hair appeared out of the thick bushes. He had a few thick ropes thrown over his shoulder. Each thick rope was taut with their ends extending into the bushes. The male walked over the mud as though he was stepping on flat ground as he pulled the ropes, dragging his burden forward. The whooshing sound came from the bushes. Suddenly, 5 wood coffins were pulled out of the bushes. A man's face changed in fear. He had never thought that the white-haired man was pulling 5 coffins. In this unpopulated place, to see a man with white hair pulling 5 coffins, even someone as daring as a man's blood froze. Especially when he saw the others suddenly turn towards him. His mind immediately blanked. He had been found. Finally encountered a person. Zhuo was filled with joy. After struggling and wandering in the endless void for so long, he finally escaped and found another person. His joy could be imagined. Behind him, Qing Shao reacted even faster. With a shocked exclamation, his hand shook, and the green pulse string on his wrist shot towards a man's hiding place. Qing Shao had grown much bigger. He looked about 20. After moving through the endless void with Zhuo these years, his strength had grown. With the guidance of a god level like Zhuo by his side, and the experiences of the endless void, he was extremely powerful. 10 years. 10 whole years. They had roamed the endless void for 10 whole years. The endless void, the lifeless world without any people, the endless dangers. They had journeyed aimlessly to arrive back to civilization. Even with Zhuo's iron resolve, he couldn't help but feel excited, much less Qing Shao. Hiding in the mud, a man felt something tighten around his body. Then a great force pulled him, he spun and flew in front of the white-haired man. The hair-thin green pulse string wrapped around a man and held him up in the air. Zhuo gave a friendly smile to a man who was frightened speechless. Then he said, "A Shao, you are scaring him. Let him down." "Oh." Qing Shao responded. The green pulse string seemed to hear and obediently put a man down, unwrapping from around a man and retreating back to Qing Shao's hand. A man refocused and knelt with a bang, shouting, "Elder, have mercy! Elder, have mercy!" Zhuo didn't know what to do. With a wave of his hand, an invisible hand propped a man up. He said gently, "Don't worry, I don't want your life, I only want to ask you a few questions." A man's heart settled slightly. Looking at the other's friendly face, they really didn't seem to want to kill him. He hurriedly said, "Elder, ask whatever you need, this lowly one will not dare to conceal anything." A man was not an inexperienced person. In fact, he was very experienced. While he did not know the origins of this elder, the other was clearly powerful. How could a person that walked out of the depths of the cold nether bog be weak? According to his experience, the stronger the elder, the stranger their tempers were. He had to be careful. Looking at a man's caution and wariness, Zhuo did not care. He asked warmly, "Where is this?" A man stilled but quickly reacted to respond, "Darren, this is the cold nether bog." Cold nether bog? Zhuo had a blank expression. He had not heard of this name before. He had to ask, "Which Jie?" "Deep fiend nether Jie," a man responded. Zhuo noticed the word nether had come up twice and asked, "Belonging to the nether realm?" A man hurriedly nodded. "Yes, in the nether realm." Zhuo sighed in relief. He hadn't thought that he would arrive at the nether realm. He was filled with joy. While the nether realm was mysterious, it was part of the Mo territories, and there would be some way of returning to Mo Cloud Sea. Thinking of everyone in Mo Cloud Sea, Zhuo couldn't help but become excited. In these years, Zhuo's own state had not been good. When he sealed the 5 people, other than the loss of his longevity, Zhuo's unstable cultivation that had just reached god level had almost collapsed. In the years Zhuo spent roaming the endless void, he had been recovering all this time. But his wounds were to the root, and the endless void was not a good place to heal. He did all he could and had finally stabilized his cultivation. However, his power had not recovered. If it was not for Silly Bird's transformation, the little ones all leveling up, and Qing Shao's increase in power, he would have died long ago in the endless void. His sea of consciousness had shattered, which meant that he could not enter the 10-finger prison, and could not communicate with Mo Cloud Sea. The Nether Realm was far from Mo Cloud Sea, but it was within the 3 realms. He could think of ways to get back to Mo Cloud Sea. It has been a long time since this one entering the world, this one doesn't know of the changes outside. Will this little brother help us get to the nearest town? Zhuo Mo was very polite. A man finally sighed in relief hearing the request. The other having use for him meant they would not kill him. He hurriedly said, of course, the closest city to her is Little Serene Town. If we walk, it will take about a day and a half. Many thanks, little brother. A red bead appeared on Zhuo Mo's hand which he threw to a man. Little brother, do not refuse this small token. A man took the red bead and his heart jumped. Joy filled him. The eye of the red-eyed nether wolf. Faint warmth came from the ruby-like bead. There was the thick presence of fire, a pure and serene nether presence, it might be of high quality. Just this nether wolf fire bead was more than what he would make in a month. Many thanks, elder. Many thanks, elder. He was overjoyed. This time, he had great luck to encounter a well-tempered and generous elder. Zhuo Mo smiled as he had been doing. Little brother, no need for such courtesy. This nether wolf fire bead was nothing to him. It was something they had killed along the way in the cold nether bog. The little ones wouldn't even deign to look on something of this level. The endless void was full of danger, but anything that survived there were all hundreds of thousands of years old. The little ones had gained picky tastes. Even Lil Pagoda, who had never lacked interest in the lowliest materials, scoffed at something like the nether wolf fire bead, much less anyone else. A man's mood was completely different now. Even his voice carried familiarity as he introduced to Zhuo Mo the nearby situation. Zhuo Mo had once ruled over a region and knew how management worked. He asked some seemingly disconnected questions and learned all about the area around Little Serene Town. Zhuo Mo quickly formed his own conclusions. Little Serene Town was a very remote town without a battalion. The population was small and transportation to and from it was difficult. This place was cut off from the outer world. He could hear from a man's voice that the great majority of the residents had never left this little town. But a man had a clever mouth and mentioned he had left before. Little Serene Town made a living by hunting in and around the cold nether bog. The nether energy of the cold nether bog was pure and all kinds of nether materials that grew here were of fair quality. The residents of Little Nether Town mostly lived by hunting and gathering materials. Zhuo Mo did not know much about the nether realm and listened interestedly. The nether realm had always been relatively closed off. As one of the 2 realms of the Mo, it rarely communicated with the outside world. Even its interactions with Hundred Savage Realm was rare, much less the Shoujo world. The so-called nether energy was a kind of energy very similar to death energy. It was filled with cold and yin, and the scent of death. It could be seen that this kind of energy similar to death was all over the nether realm. A man cultivated Shin power, and even this was filled with the presence of this nether energy. However, a man said what he cultivated was not true nether Shin power. True nether Shin power came from the nether energy. He could hear a man's yearning when he said this. A man was not fast as Zhuo Mo, but Zhuo Mo did not press him. Pulling the 5 coffins, he followed behind a man. A man spoke of all kinds of things in the nether realm and it was not boring. A day and a half later, Little Serene Town was in sight. Chapter 853, Golden Chariot. The residents of Little Serene Town looked with wariness at Zhuo Mo. Zhuo Mo did not care. There were not many people who came to the little town, so there was only one hotel. Zhuo Mo stayed in it. The feeling of returning to society was wonderful even in a small town like this. However, what was most important was communicating with Mo Cloud Sea. While the nether realm was far from Mo Cloud Sea, Zhuo Mo still had ways. After entering God level, many things that he felt were mysterious before were no longer mysterious. Zhuemo had also learned a lot from that battle with Chief Elder, especially many of the Shen glyphs that Chief Elder had collected. These were all gained by Zhuemo's skill at Shen glyphs could not compare to Chief Elder, but after entering God level it was much easier for him to understand. In the years Zhuemo had wandered in the endless void, Zhuemo thought back to the many Shen glyphs that Chief Elder had in his glyph sea. For a God level, he only needed to remember a small part and he could reconstruct the complete Shen glyph in a very short amount of time. Zhuemo slowly folded the paper crane. He was full of excitement. The last time he communicated with everyone was in the moment before they left the Central Plains. He had gathered his remaining Shen power to send out a paper crane of the highest priority. When this paper crane was folded, he gently sent it flying. But the paper crane quickly returned to his hands. Zhuemo was slightly shocked. It was the first time he encountered a situation like this. He quickly realized what had happened. The Nether Realm was locked down. This conclusion surprised Zhuemo. Even a God level did not have the power to lock down an entire realm. Then it must be something similar to seal formations. How great was the scale of something that could lock down an entire realm be? Other than the ruler of the Nether Realm, Zhuemo could not think of anyone that could accomplish this. Suddenly, Zhuemo recalled the news that the Nether Realm had been united by a Nether King 10 years ago. At that time, no one had paid too much attention to that. The Nether Realm was far away and mysterious. Zhuemo's mind moved. Was this done by that Nether King? Zhuemo felt that his speculation was most likely true. However, this meant contacting Mo Cloud Sea was even more troublesome. Even paper cranes could not fly out, transportation formations were even more unlikely to work. At this time, his body had not recovered, and he could not overcome these restraints. The paper crane could not fly out of the Nether Realm, he could not enter the 10-finger prison, then how was he supposed to communicate with Mo Cloud Sea? After thinking for a while, he found there was only one way: walk out of the Nether Realm. The enormous Nether Realm could not be completely sealed off. It had to have channels to the outside world. If he tried hard to find it, he definitely would. He had been able to make it through a decade in the endless void. What was this distance? Zhuemo's gaze was determined. He started to think about how he could return to Mo Cloud Sea more effectively and faster. He believed nothing to stop his steps. "Hey man, what does the strange person you brought back really do?" a resident of the town asked in a small voice. A man frowned and scolded. "What strange person? Call them Elder. Careful not to offend Elder, you cannot afford to offend them." The one who spoke shrank his head back. A man's words were persuasive. Someone that dragged 5 coffins and walked out of the cold nether bog was definitely not someone they could offend. A man glanced at the hotel. It had been 5 days since Elder had last come out. Originally, this was nothing, but when the townspeople thought of the 5 coffins, they couldn't help but panic. In the Nether Realm, there were many that forged corpses. Had this Elder gone to the cold Nether Realm to dig up corpses? There were many that forged corpses, but normal people still disliked those that did so. Many years ago, in a city someone had made a mistake when forging corpses and caused half of the people of that city to become zombies. It had been a long time since such a powerful corpse-forging MO had appeared. But when they thought of the white-haired person who had came out of the cold nether bog, everyone couldn't help but be filled with worry. A man didn't feel that Elder forged corpses. Elder didn't even have a hint of nether energy. He even felt that Elder didn't seem like a MO. He didn't know why, but he just had the feeling. Suddenly, golden light came out of the hotel. A vast presence rampaged in waves. The hotel shattered like it was made out of paper. A golden chariot appeared in front of everyone. The chariot seemed to be made from gold. It was noble and grand. The roof of the chariot curved like the firmament, golden tassels draping down like golden flames. The wheels of the chariot were held up by golden flames to float in the air. The body of the chariot was carved with exquisite sun diagrams. And at the center of each sun was a precious gem that a man didn't recognize. They released all kinds of light. The entire chariot was about 20 zhang, astoundingly large. All of Little Serene Town was stunned by this chariot. Many people unconsciously knelt. They were completely conquered by this chariot. That vast and deep presence was like an ancient king looking down on the world. "A man, are you willing to be my guide?" A faint voice came from the chariot. Excitement rose on a man's face. He said without hesitation, "A man is willing to follow Darren. Come up." A man felt a cloud pushing him up and he came onto the chariot. A man was extremely clever and bowed after getting on the chariot. "Elder, where are we going?" "Where is the most prosperous city in this Jie?" "Wugu City," a man said respectfully. "Then I want to go there." "Yes." A man did not waste words. The chariot broke through the air and left behind a stream of golden flames as it roared like thunder. Zhuo had thought it through. While his Shen power had not recovered, his god-level cultivation was steady. He could easily defeat normal experts. He also had the little ones, and Qing Shao, as powerful sidekicks. Even if he also met a god level, he did have the ability to fight. In other words, he was at the top of the food chain now. He did not want to provoke a strong enemy, but if other people came to provoke him, they should measure themselves first. Normal experts and battalions were not a threat to people of his level. What he needed to do now was to return to Mo Cloud C at the fastest possible speed. He needed to let Mo Cloud C know he was still alive and had returned as soon as possible. There was no need to hide his identity right now. There was no need, and he should be as loud as possible to attract attention. Only then would the news he was still alive spread more easily. Also, being ostentatious, arrogant, and looking dangerous meant that it would save him great trouble. After thinking this through, Zhuo forged this showy sun chariot. With his present level, his forging had reached the peak. Also, he had collected many good materials. Adding on that he deliberately was pursuing grandness and ostentatious, the sun chariot was majestic when it was forged. The flames covering the wheels were sun Shen fire. There were 8 Shen glyphs on the entire chariot. It could be called Zhuo's masterpiece. When the chariot was used, it roared and wailed. The world seemed to shake. Anyone who heard it was stunned. The spectators were not able to see the true form of the chariot. They could only see a ball of flowing fire come with the vast presence of a wasteland beast that shook people's souls. Such presence, it attracted attention anywhere it passed. No one dared to provoke them. Zhuo's intention was not just to attract attention. This grand sun chariot had many Shen formations that could absorb all kinds of powers and turn them into Shen power. He would then use it to repair his body. Zhuo could feel that his body was slowly recovering. The endless void was the best place to gain experience but not the best place to cultivate. That icy endless void meant that not only was it hard for his Shen power to be replenished, he had to always be on his guard for his Shen power silently leaking out. In these 10 years, he had thought of all the ways he could to take care of the 5 people. The 5's vitality was sealed off. In order for them to live, he had to think of ways to replenish their vitality. There were 5 nurturing Shen formations inside the 5 coffins. In this decade, Zhuo had not been idle even one day. In order to save these 5 people, he created the Shen formations that had Shen glyphs as the core and the seal scripts as the branches. He pulled the 5 coffins, and moved with Qing Shao and the little ones like locusts. They dug up everything valuable everywhere they passed to search for the required materials. Zhuo did not hesitate to use priceless treasures on Wei Sheng, the other 4, and the little ones. Other than those things, he needed to cultivate every day and stabilize his cultivation. The Shen formations had the ability to steal life from the heavens. He threw in all kinds of treasure without regard for the cost. After being nursed for 10 years, the 5 were finally starting to get better. Zhuo was able to hear the soft breathing of the 5. Their destroyed bodies started to recover vitality. He had not stopped thinking about this for 5 years. Zhuo's understanding of power reached a profound level. He knew how he should recover his power. His Shin power had not recovered, but his cultivation was steady. He had ways. The chariot passed through thick clouds, thunder and lightning being attracted to the chariot. The chariot was covered by the lightning, and it was so blinding it was like an angry god descending. The thick lightning was absorbed by the Shin formations on the chariot and turned into Shin power to nurse Suomo's body. His body that was dry as the desert greedily sucked every drop of Shin power and slowly returned vitality. A man looked at the lightning that was flashing constantly outside. When the first bolt had come, he was half frightened to death. Such a thick bolt of lightning. If he was hit, there probably won't even be ash left. The scene that occurred after caused him to lose the ability to think. Thousands, no tens of thousands, of bolts of lightning came out of the corners of the clouds and furiously hit the chariot. A moment later, he recovered from his daze. He unconsciously rubbed his face. He was still alive. He was actually still alive. Heavens! He suddenly became excited. That scene he had just witnessed was the most spectacular he ever saw in this life. Elder was too powerful. At this time, he wanted to kneel in thanks. He was really fortunate. A man, Elder's voice came from the chariot room. A man shook and said respectfully, "A man is here. Let me have a look at the Shin methodology you cultivate." The clever a man was overjoyed. The intentions of the elder to teach him was indicated in his tone. He suppressed his excitement. He took out a bone covered in patterns and handed it over with both hands. Chapter 854, Qing Shao Wuge City was the most prosperous city of the Jia, and as expected Enzhua Mo learned much useful information here. After 10 years, the world had changed significantly. After cultivating for 10 years, no matter which faction one spoke of, a large amount of experts had rose. These experts mostly were names that Mo had never heard of. Mo found this from a man. He perceptively recognized the change. If the era of Shin power had just begun 10 years ago, then after 10 years, Shin power was facing its spring. However, what he was most happy was the news of Mo Cloud Sea. Unlike Tian Huan, who descended into civil war, and Shi Xian, who had been consumed, Mo Cloud Sea was prospering. Right now, Mo Cloud Sea was the second-ranked power in the Shoujo world, only under Kunlun. Gongsun Cha had been fighting these 10 years and won all encounters, defeating all challengers. His ranking rose and he was now the second strongest battle general after Shuedong. Bihan had not rested on his laurels. His ranking had risen to 6th. The two working together had taken almost half of Shi Xian's territories. The one that had benefited the most from the division within Tianhuan was Mo Cloud Sea. Mo Cloud Sea had grabbed the opportunity of the North and South Tianhuan factions' war to sell the Mo Cloud Shin equipment and set themselves as the biggest seller of Shin equipment. Kunlun had become even stronger. While they had been stopped by Gongsun Cha and were unable to accomplish their goal, they still took almost 1/3 of Shi Xian's territory. Adding on the 5 sects of the 9 great Diana sects that had sided with them, Kunlun's territories were unprecedentedly large. However, after the Battle of the Central Plains, Lin Qian had stayed in seclusion and had not come out. When he saw this bit of news, Zuomo's pupils unconsciously contracted. Lin Qian had definitely received significant wounds when he fled. With Zuomo's present level, he could accurately judge the amount of damage Lin Qian had received then. Lin Qian's wounds had definitely healed long ago. There was only one possibility why he was in seclusion: Lin Qian was trying to become god level. 10 years had passed. The average level of Shin power had gone up a few levels since then. With Lin Qian's abilities, it was possible that he might reach god level. Zuomo had a general guess of Lin Qian's intentions. If Lin Qian successfully became god level, he would ascend to be the only god level of the Shoujo realm and would lead the biggest sect in the world, Kunlun. His reputation would reach a level never seen before. At that time, all would want to join him. Even Mo Cloud Sea would not be able to stop him. This was truly to accomplish all in one stroke. But Lin Qian definitely would not have thought that Mo would come back alive. Zhuo Mo's eyes flashed with cold light. A smile came onto his lips. After 10 years of hardship, his resolve was hardened. He was far from the little Mo Gu of the past. For Lin Qian, who seemed like his fated archenemy, Zhuo Mo did not feel any fear. He was filled with confidence. He anticipated the next time they fought. The only one in the shoujo world that could be a match for him was Lin Qian. Zhuo Mo quickly refocused and continued reading. The shoujo world had changed from the three-party equilibrium to two fighting for dominance. Tianhuan's split and decline and Mo Cloud C's rise formed a clear contrast. Compared to 10 years ago, there were many more small factions. Tianhuan had split into North and South Tianhuan. Both sides thought they were the orthodox one. The long-standing internal conflict had used up their already weak strength. Other than this, the split of the 9 Great Dhyana sect was not a surprise. However, the lesser 4 Dhyana sects had not sided with Mo Cloud C. Zhuo Mo knew that it was because he was not there, and Yang Huanhao's confidence in Mo Cloud C had wavered. He did not feel that Yang Yuanhao was wrong. Truthfully, even Zhuo Mo was filled with surprise at Mo Cloud C's development. Time had been tight then. The paper crane he sent out only had 5 words: "Wait for us to return." At that time, he hadn't been sure if they could survive, but he still sent the message. His thoughts then had been simple: to leave behind a hope for everyone. He didn't know how much use this hope was. He didn't know if this hope would come true. But he didn't want Mo Cloud C to split like this. He hoped that everyone would stay united. Losing him, losing eldest Shixiang and the other 4 great experts. This blow was enough to be fatal to Mo Cloud C. At this time, a hope was like a life-saving stalk of grass. Zhuo Mo knew that for many factions, an intangible hope like this was like an illusion and had no meaning or value. They would still split up and crumble. But Mo Cloud C did not. Everyone hadn't given up. For some reason, Zhuo Mo was moved. An intangible hope in exchange for 10 years of standing guard. This was Mo Cloud C. Qing Shao's gaze swept across the Mo in front of him. Truthfully, he didn't know why Darren needed to recruit people. In his view, these people were all average in strength. However, Qing Shao did not understand, but since Big Brother had told him to do this, he would complete it to the best of his abilities. Qualification 1, Youth. Qualification 2, Strong. Qing Shao chanted in his mind as he swept a gaze again. Then he pointed into the crowd. You. He pointed out 10 people in one go. A man gaped from the side. Elder had asked him to help Qing Shao Darren to pick 10 servants. Usually, this would be done by going through round after round of competition to pick out the elites. There were more than 1,000 people here. When Elder's chariot entered Wuge City, all of Wuge City had been disrupted. Even the city master had ran to the gates to welcome them. Watching the city master, who was so old he was almost in the ground, bow with the humble mannerisms of a junior, a man felt it was extremely strange. Elder was living in the mansion of the city master. Then countless people came and tried to curry favor with Elder. Someone started, and now a large group ran to the city master's mansion every day to ask Elder for guidance. These people were delusional. Thinking about the Shin methodology Elder had bestowed, a man felt wonderful inside. He felt a clear difference when he cultivated these days. The Shin methodology that Elder had given him was as extraordinary as expected. These people did not scatter, and it started to look ugly. There were many sons and nephews of the local powers here. Elder had barely agreed when he said he wanted 10 servants. And then, it became like this. More than 1,000 people surrounded the gates of the city master's mansion. The scene was so spectacular a man gaped. A man was proud, but he felt slightly uncertain. Any person among these could beat him like a dog. He was only considered strong in Little Serene Town. In Wuge City, he was nothing. Looking at Qing Shao casually picking 10 people, a man swallowed the words that reached his mouth. Qing Shao Darren definitely had his own reasons. The ones that were chosen were overjoyed, those who were not were extremely disappointed. Suddenly, someone shouted from within the crowd, "Not fair. This is not fair. Why did you choose them?" A man felt it was a bad shift in the crowd. There were many lawless people among this group. As mo, if they were chosen by combat, there wouldn't have been a problem. Qing Shao picking people by seemingly random choice was something many people could not accept. After a short pause, many people started to shout as well since there were many that were not chosen. The mob grew rowdy at the gates of the city master's mansion. Qing Shao had not expected he would encounter something like this. He was not stupid and he frowned as he thought. If Big Brother encountered something like this, what would he do? Big Brother didn't seem to have encountered this situation before. Qing Shao thought for a while. He felt that these people were as disobedient as black gold. Oh, how did Silly Bird deal with black gold? Beat him. The black gold seal soldier feared the strong and bullied the weak. He fawned in front of Big Brother, but he liked to posture in front of everyone else. He was also greedy, and when he had a conflict with the little ones, he had been beaten up by Silly Bird before he became docile. Beat them up. Qing Shao suddenly realized, so Big Brother wanted to teach me this. Qing Shao did not hesitate. He flew into the air, and the green pulse string at his wrist spread out. The long green pulse string gave off thick green light and was tensed like a bowstring. Qing Shao's right arm pulled back slightly, and the green pulse string moved like a bowstring. Hiss! Light started to gather at the bowstring that Qing Shao pulled. The sky above Wuge City immediately turned dark. The light where his hand touched the bowstring became even brighter. An extremely dangerous presence covered the 1,000 people below. It seemed everyone's neck was put into a stranglehold. The swearing suddenly stopped. Everyone looked dazedly at Qing Shao in the air and that outrageously dangerous ball of light in his hand. Blood retreated visibly from their faces. The thick green light reflected Qing Shao's calm expression. The crowd could not see any puzzlement or panic on his face. He seemed to be doing a simple thing. The thick Shen power covered all of Wuge City. Would he destroy Wuge City? Damn it! The city master of Wuge City could not stand by any longer. If he knew, he would have sent a battalion to maintain the peace. These bastards! How dare they anger Elder? His heart burned in urgency. After being city master for so many years, he was more knowledgeable than normal people. To say of nothing else, just that chariot had blinded him. He was not a country bumpkin, he had associated with many of the so-called prestigious families. But he had never seen such a grand chariot. Also, this was definitely not a normal chariot. Even someone blind could see that this was not a normal chariot. Also, someone blind would be able to see that Elder was of extraordinary origins. He had the impulse to kill the 1,000 people. You idiots, did you not see that even this city master was full of respect? And you still dare cause trouble? If you ruin this city master's matter, I will kill you all myself. The city master gritted his teeth. He was currying favor with this Darren of unknown origins for his own goals. The 1,000 people below were dumbstruck. Did this person want Wuge City to bleed in rivers? Qing Shao did not think so much. He remembered clearly that Silly Bird had beaten black gold like a dog. Therefore, he released the bowstring.